episode of Video Game Logic. Today's show was recorded on April 17th, 2018. I'm your host, gaming psychologist, and with me, as always, the closest thing you can have to a spouse.
Caffeine Rage. I'm not sure, once again, how I feel about this.
On today's show, we will, of course, be discussing the games that we've played this week. Cliff Bleszinski accuses Epic Games of stealing his staff. ASUS teases the ROG gaming phone. EA pledges to be better, in quotes, after Star Wars Battlefront 2's debacle. We'll have our weekly community corner, which has a host special in it. We'll have our weekly discovery queue, and timestamps will be in the show notes following their respective topics. Hello, Rage. How are you?
Well, obviously better than you.
Yeah, I was quite worried I was going to break down halfway through that intro. It's the only part of the show where I have to, be perfect and nail it. But dear listener, you missed, the last 10 minutes where I was, dying. And making horrible body noises.
Well, to be
Rage
fair,
and I
you
are now
usually
closer than we were before.
To be fair, you make horrible body noises every week.
These were worse. Especially for you, because you could hear them all the way from my hall bathroom.
Yeah, you have quite the carrying, hacking cough.
You have no idea. You should hear me in person.
Kind of don't want to now.
Well, we should make sure to meet in person in the winter when I have much fewer bodily issues. Because there's no pollen, because everything's dead and cold. Like our hearts.
And crickets.
Yeah, we're both just, hanging our head low, yeah. Although Battletech seems to be warming up our hearts. We're hearing more and more good things about that game. Getting excited. Did you see the intro cinematic?
Yeah, I saw that.
Yep. I like that. A quick little history of the MechWarrior or the Battletech universe.
Mm-hmm.
2 minutes. It was good. See when Starcom fell apart and they had the big civil war. Yeah. And then basically it's civil war for forever.
Well, war never changes.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. Wrong series.
So the clans show up and fuck everyone up. Man, that's good. I should go buy some more of those books and read them. There's bound to have been a couple more series.
I've never really sat down and read the extended universe of any game.
I've read a few.
Okay, here's going to be the question, since you've done this several times. What game universe has the most interesting extended universe literature? And saying Star Wars is cheating.
No, I wasn't going to say Star Wars. That's tough. I've read the extended universe books for Halo, Mass Effect, Gears of War, MechWarrior, or Battletech, and World of Warcraft. Or, Warcraft, because those books cover...
I've read the intro paragraph to the one of the Warcraft books, and it seemed a little cheesy to me.
Yeah, all of the Warcraft books are really cheesy. At least all the ones that I've read. There's
when they put out
3 or 4 dozen.
The first chapter as a promotion for, I think it was the Illidan book, actually.
I suppose it depends by what criteria you're going by. If it's just overall quality of the books, I would have to say it's a tie between some of the Halo books and the MechWarrior stuff that I've read. But if it comes down to what flushes out the universe the most, by far, that's the Halo series. There's dozens of books covering multiple eras and filling in lots of gaps and expanded original stories. MechWarrior has that too, or the MechWarrior books have that too, but I don't know if it's just Bungie was able to get higher quality writers to write those books or what, but the Halo books I've read compared to the MechWarrior books are more well written, so Halo stands out as the book series that has the best expanded universe. But, there's 30 or 40 MechWarrior and Halo books, so, those two take the cake by far, and then beyond that, it's probably just more preference.
Yeah, I have heard good things about the Warhammer books or the Warhammer 40K, but they're also in the cheesy realm.
Yeah. They also might be impenetrable.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, trying to figure out where the hell to start. It's like looking at the Discworld series. It's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, though that's one good thing about the Mech Warrior books. It's a lot easier to just jump in, especially even in the middle of a story. Because they'll do runs of books, 3, 4, 5 books to tell a complete story. You can kind of jump into the middle of most of those, because that's what I would do as a kid. We have a big used bookstore. At the time, it was just one store. They're like a little chain here now, but they're called McKay's. And they were like where all of the edgy people went to get books. And so there were video game books and stuff like that, and everybody had like really huge earrings and looked like they were goth people. It was awesome. But that was like the only place that I could find those books. And so I'd be like, well, I guess I'm reading book 3 of the Dark Ages series and for Mech Warrior this week. Because I just have to take whatever I could get. And I never felt totally lost. So, good for them. But anyways, yes, video games. We play them.
Occasionally.
We played quite a few this week. Would you like to discuss what you played, Rach?
All right, so let's start off with the Sunday Sampler. Steampunk Tower 2. Oh boy. This is one of those conflicting games. I had fun with it, but well, this is a mobile port, or this is being released either simultaneously or very close together on both mobile and PC. And its mobile roots shows big time. And that really put a damper on things. I absolutely love the art style of this game.
It does look really nice.
Yeah, that's part of the reason why I started playing it. But let's put it this way. In my video about this, first thing I did was I had a disclaimer saying that I am a PC gamer. I'm looking at this from a PC gamer perspective. So all the timers, all the limits irritate the ever-living fuck out of me. To give you an idea, okay, this is a take on tower defense. I mean, it's literally a tower.
Okay.
But you have a inventory of turrets that you recycle throughout all the missions, and you level them up over the course of the game. Okay.
Okay. I like that idea.
Yeah, you suddenly got very quiet, by the way.
Did I?
Yeah.
Oh, I muted to cough and then unmuted, so maybe it's doing something weird. I'll check my volume.
Okay, well, you're better now. But you have an inventory that you take into battle with you, and you have to manage your special abilities that you can bring in or power up during the battle, and also the ammo for all the guns that have a certain amount of ammo, and you have to either let them run out and reload, or reload them prematurely and swap them around. Because all the guns can be swapped positions on the tower. At the maximum of rank, you could take in 10 guns. And there's an elevator in the center of the tower that you could stow one gun in the bottom of to be able to swap them all around, which I absolutely loved the design of and loved how it worked. For the most part, it was a little finicky at sometimes because as the guns fire, they build up this steam meter, which activates a special ability once it's full. But that is also tied to just clicking and dragging out to, to target the special ability. So there was a couple times I was frantically trying to move a gun that was charged, but it didn't have any ammo in it, so I wanted to save the charge for later. So drag it to the bottom of the elevator and swap in one from the other side, assuming that there's no enemies over there, because sometimes enemies will attack one side of the tower, sometimes they'll come in from both. Sometimes the battlefield will shift so the tower's on one side of the screen and showing a bigger slice of the battlefield. But I accidentally did inadvertent firing of the special ability, which was irritating. And also, certain enemies are weaker to certain types of guns. So the saw blade launcher, for example, certain enemies may take a critical hit from its special ability, while others may take a huge amount of damage or lose their armor by getting hit by the Tesla gun. But I mentioned that all these guns are upgradable, and they're your inventory items. They're not built on site. In order to upgrade the guns, you have to get special resources. For one, you need, I believe it's Internium. It's a green crystal that you get. And you could only hold so much of it. And as you upgrade your central base, your little secret hidden layer, you increase the amount of storage that you get hold of it. Still, it's not a lot, and you're constantly either at max or you've severely dumped down, especially if you're building up your base after leveling up your overall profile. So that is an irritant. But also, in order to rank the guns up from rank 1 to rank 2, you need a special item, which is produced in one of the factories in the overworld map, which you have to capture. And occasionally the enemy faction, the cultists, which there is an overarching story to this game, but they didn't really do a synopsis of the original game's story. So I have no idea what the fuck is going on. There's a giant steampunk tower, and it drops down from the sky, and you shoot people. There's your story. But you have to capture the factories, and then spend the Internium there to manufacture one of the parts and have it shipped back. And shipping it back has a couple-minute timer. And then, in order to build up Internium, that is also another timer by sending out your agents on special missions, or getting lucky on the actual fighting in the levels, because the levels do not give set rewards. They give you a loot box.
Oh boy.
And that loot box system creates a very big feast and famine progression, where there was quite a while where I was just getting unlucky with my drops. So I was pretty much broke, and I wasn't able to really upgrade. I was able to get the resources I needed, because in order to upgrade, you have to put I forget what they call it. They called it details, but that's not quite what they were referring to on the individual guns. But the loot boxes have different levels of these upgrade parts, which add points to the gun, essentially a level bar. And once it reaches a certain milestone, you pay gold and sometimes the Eternium to level up the gun. But I just didn't have enough gold. And I kept getting bad luck and was just getting all the upgrade parts, or all the Eternium, and I was already maxed out on it. So I just eventually had to rerun the missions over and over again in order to build up the gold. And there is a auto resolve feature if you've already done that particular map, but that also costs gold. And if you have a bad roll on the loot boxes that rewards, well, you're going to end up losing money. And it also is factoring in, it has a 3-star system. I mean, it's a mobile game. Of course it has a 3-star system.
Of course.
And depending on the level, that's the amount of remaining health that your tower has. So if you're at full health or above, I would say probably 80% health, because it's not quite thirds for the first for the 3rd star. You'll get 3 loot boxes. If you take too much damage, you lose a loot box. You barely scrape by it, you only get 1. And to repair your tower in between missions, that is also gold. So you're seeing the problem with this, right?
Right.
There's a lot of hurry up and wait in this game. There's a lot of timers, particularly on upgrading your stuff. I did have fun with the missions themselves, and the game throws a lot of varying enemies and a lot of different designs. granted, it does kind of drip feed them at the very beginning because this is a free game on mobile. So if you want to try this out, go try it on mobile. Probably a tablet would be a lot better, though, because I can not imagine playing this on a smartphone. There's way too many little finicky buttons. But there's a lot of just mobile design that doesn't really translate well to PC. And because this is going to be a paid game, on the press kit, it actually had a range of $5 to $10. So I was assuming in the $10 range, but they've come back and said it's going to be in the $8 range. So that's a little bit better, but still, it's a little bit of a hard pill to swallow whenever you have the systems in place that the free-to-play mechanics was going to bypass, I assume, because I don't have access to the review code of the mobile version. I only have it of the PC. But I'm seeing all the little places where the free-to-play would have the, pay to avoid, or the convenience pay, give us a dollar, and we'll give you some coins, and you don't have to wait 5 minutes for your agent to go out and get some Eternium and come back. Or, that sort of thing. So all the trappings are still there, all the timers are still there, but the ability to skip them isn't. Granted, I wouldn't have paid to skip them anyway, but still. Ugh. And, there's also one other interesting thing, is that the game has super weapons, which are also paid for gold, which I'm hoping is the free currency, where there's a artillery barrage, which essentially wipes one side of the tower. There's a energy pulse, which is a prolonged heavy damage AoE effect for both sides of the tower. And then there's a rocket barrage, which is a targeted damage, allows you to really hit something that has a lot of health on it. And then there's the Steam Eye, which is another ability that charges up over time. As you call in waves early, it builds up this, steam-powered bar. And as you upgrade the tower, you also gain additional overall charges that you can hold in between levels. And that's kind of your, oh crap, I'm about to lose. Quick, hit this button, right? But they're disabled on boss fights. And you can see actually two of the boss fights in the screenshots. The giant spider thing. Yeah, it looks like it looks like
Wild Wild West.
I was about to say it looks right out of Wild Wild West. I mean, it's steampunk, so that's the first boss that you encounter. I didn't encounter the giant digging machine, but I think I was getting close to it. But some very impressive design. But just irritants,
Yeah. I like the look of the game.
Yeah. That's why I originally started playing. The first one is available on mobile for free, and the second one is going to be as well.
Well, it's also a Flash game.
Yeah, it was originally released as a free-to-play Flash game on some Flash site, and they were contacted by a publisher to publish it on mobile, but they had to completely redo the game. So that's while you see a slight difference between the Flash version and the mobile version. And I will say that at least based on what I played and what I could see on the original, this does look like a really good refinement. And there's a lot of interesting mechanics. Being able to build up your guns and have an inventory to be able to swap out for particular missions is very interesting to me. The gun upgrade system, there's a lot of times that the choices don't feel like they make much impact, though. One of the choices, for example, was a slightly faster charging up of the special ability, or a slightly longer special ability on the use for the machine gun. So, have it more often, slightly, or, have it last slightly longer. Others were a bit more ammo or a bit more range. Were two other ones I really remember, but it's like plus 25 range whenever the guns already have 800, 900 range. Doesn't really make that much of a difference, at least in my opinion.
Yeah. If it was more like 25%, that would be a much bigger,
yeah. It just
bigger boost.
It just felt like the upgrades, they didn't matter that much. I will say that going to tier 3 for all the guns, they have a special a diverging path on the guns, and it did seem like that made a bigger difference between the guns. So maybe that is more important, the overall type of gun, than your actual slight changing of the upgrades. And also, there's no visual indication on what the upgrades are on the gun. So because there's so much shuffling of the guns, particularly on some of the more interesting missions, you're ending up shuffling and moving around the guns constantly. And if you have a gun that you really want to favor for a particular type of enemy, it's the same type, but maybe it has more ammo or fires slightly faster, it's going to be very easy to lose track of. I would have liked to really seen some sort of, the ammo capacity shows like a magazine on the gun slowly getting longer, something like that. But there's none of that. It's only the tier of gun or the type of gun. And also the individual types, they require individual parts. So, and overall, you're looking at, I think, 5 different parts per type of weapon. Depending on your upgrade path, of course, that does cut it down a bit. But if you're wanting a variety, you're going to have to capture a lot of different factories, and those wait times do add up. Granted, the timer does tick while you're in a mission, so you can start the timer and then go on a mission. But that's still not ideal, especially if you're wanting to upgrade a gun for a particular mission. Or you're wanting to build up a new gun and you didn't get the parts ahead of time. Then you have probably about a 5 to 7 minute wait just for that one gun, because you also cannot order more than one part at a time, because of course not. Whenever you start the timer, it ticks off, and for some of the more distant factories, the timer is actually slower than the train that carries it to your base. So the timer could end and you still don't have it.
Well, that sucks.
Yeah. Granted, that's one of the few times that you're actually able to have 2 trains moving with the same part, but that's not ideal. I do like, seeing all the trains moving around on the world map with the agents and everything. But, the fact that they're timers is irritating.
But they're trains. Trains are the best.
Right. But it's one of those weird things that this comes in on the high end of the bell curve, where I enjoyed the game overall, but, right?
Yeah.
And I will say that the animation is really nice on the enemies, especially, the big, chunky, like, walkers or the boss enemies. The ones that have a lot more room for the detail are really well done. And also, whenever the tower gets dropped from the airship, because of course there's an airship, but it's not, the dirigible or Zeppelin type airship. It's actually, I would say, more more shield headquarters. The hover carrier.
Yeah.
And I'm blanking on the actual name of the ship.
The helicarriers?
The helicarriers. I wasn't sure if there was a proper, actual name for their base of operations.
I don't think so. Not that I know of.
It's a helicarrier, and it's carrying this essentially giant sword on the side. And on the boss missions, it gives you the full animation of it swinging down into a vertical position and then dropping from the sky and slamming into the ground. And it all unfolds to this lattice work of tower floors. It's a very well done animation. You could see some of the animation actually on the Steam store if you scroll down some of the GIFs that show you good ideas. Particularly, it shows you the first boss and how heavily it moves. Very mech.
Yep, and we love our big stompy mechs.
Yeah, it's just it's all the timers is the big thing that really pisses me off. But I do think you agree with the final feature point on this. Trains developed by a railway network for transport of agents and resources. Can't be steampunk without trains.
Nope. Gotta have some big steam locomotives with weird looking designs.
Of course. So yeah, that is Steampunk Tower 2. It's one of those things that if you could get past the trappings of a mobile port, it's a really good and interesting take on the tower defense genre. But and that's one other thing I forgot is that I talked about the super weapons. There's also an additional modifier that you could buy for gold, and this is why gold is so important. And also, it's irritating that you have a maximum amount of gold that you can carry at one time. Is that during the missions you could also request additional support for that level. So the super weapons carry over the entire game until you use them. So if you had a lot of money and you bought a bunch of rocket barrages or artillery barrages, those will stick with you until you use them. Then there's temporary power-ups, which are barricades around your tower, which will slow enemies, which is a one-time, one level thing. There's a power-up that's a lot more expensive that increases the reload and firing speed of your guns. Very good for very tough levels. And I'm blanking on the... Oh, no. It makes it so that whenever you go into battle, you have a fully charged superpower on all your guns. Good for, levels that you are initially up against something that is weak to a particular type of attack. So, there's a varying difficulty curve there. And I will say that the challenge modes, I just wasn't able to beat them. They were very difficult. And that was really the only time I really felt any challenge in the game, or severe challenge. The boss fight was fun, though. It required a little bit of puzzling to figure out how to counteract a couple of abilities it had. I don't want to spoil what the abilities are because it's rather interesting. But they bring in the idea of you have this giant tower and you're swapping guns around into the boss fight really well for the first one.
It looks and sounds interesting.
Yeah,
I'll definitely check it out on mobile for sure. And if I would say this was there,
I would say this is probably better for a tablet game than a phone game, though. Because
I don't have a tablet anymore.
Yeah, it's just there's not a lot of room on the screen for mobile, and the tower has up to 5 layers. It's like an onion,
or an ogre,
or a cake, protected by a unicorn.
You have to post that picture on Twitter.
How about your reaction to it?
I was very excited. Very excited.
I went to grocery shopping this morning because I'm a night person, so I stay up to go grocery shopping at 3 o'clock in the morning. Come around the corner, and there's just this giant balloon unicorn. I'm not sure if it really shows the scale of it, but that thing was probably about 4 feet tall.
It definitely looks big. I don't think I would have guessed 4 feet tall, but it definitely does look big.
I mean, the table that I was sitting on was at about my hip.
So,
yeah, overall,
what else have you
Steampunk
played,
Tower's,
sir?
Pretty good. It's just, a lot of trouble with it. Yeah, much like this next game, RoverCraft. This is one that popped up on my recommended things on Google Play, and it's one of those games that I initially had some fun with, but then I quickly ran into a wall. So RoverCraft, Race Your Space Car, is a driving 2D mobile game where you have to build a rover and get to the end of the level. Pretty standard. But they don't really do much with their theme, to be perfectly honest. You go through the different planets, and they all feel very similar outside of just adding another obstacle. Like, you go to Venus, and there's pools of lava. Earth, you have to avoid crates all over the place because Earth is a giant mess. That sort of thing. But I would have thought that they would have messed with the gravity somewhat, and also all the individual levels. They have it set up where it's not really a full requirement, but it's very, very difficult to get past them with without a particular power-up or a particular part for your rover, because it's chunk-based, so you build it out of all this assortment of parts. And if you don't have a particular part like the rocket booster, it's very difficult. Like in Venus, you have to, very early on, there's this difficult jump that you have to have a certain amount of speed to get over this lava pit. But if you don't have the rocket booster, you're going to have some very highly upgraded tires to be able to get that speed up. So you see where we're going with this, right?
Sorry, I was coughing. This is going to be a fun one to edit. For
you.
A difficult one. Yeah.
But you can see where we're going with this, where I quickly hit a wall just where it was turning into a grind to be able to afford the particular items that I needed to even attempt to get past a certain percentage of the level. And that really turned me off. And also, the way they handle the microtransactions is a bit annoying, where you are essentially paying. Well, you have the option to pay for premium currency. Yeah, pretty standard bubble. But it's only for certain parts that you're available to buy it. You buy it with the premium currency. Otherwise, you're just paying into the Wheel of Fortune, essentially. Because that's not gambling at all.
Definitely not.
To hopefully get either a part that you need or an upgrade that you need, because that's also on the wheel, or just the raw money. Or you can just buy into the lottery. And yes, they literally call it the lottery.
Oh, good. Well, at least they're honest.
And first time I saw that, I thought, yeah, and this is not gambling. But it's one of those weird things that, a lot of mobile titles are very front-ended on their fun. I think you can agree with that one, right?
Yeah, they try and get you hooked early before the grind gets too big.
Yeah, and that's what really happened here. I got enough time to play on and off for a couple days. Pretty much my render time. But it started to get to the point where it was getting very difficult to get any sort of real progress without the particular parts. And also, this is going to sound a little PC Master Racy, or actually kind of ironic saying PC Master Race with this, but I was really missing an analog throttle, because it's handled the way you drive is left. You tap on the left side of the screen and you brake, or reverse if you stop. Tap on the right and you slam the throttle at full. And this is a climbing game, so
you really need to be able to be precise with it.
Yeah, and there's no way to really do any precision. At least old man me, who hasn't grown up with these things, There is a part that is a gyroscope. But, here's something else that kind of got me, is that, okay, they have this theme of electric rovers. You pick up batteries to recharge your rover. And, they use a fuel gauge, but, that's decent enough. But in order to power up or get additional power to your wheels, you put an exhaust pipe on. And it's showing smoke.
Diesel electric generator.
No, there is a generator part, actually. It's a wheel that, as it spins, after so long, it gives you a chunk of energy. But that's a premium part. And one of the levels, I'm pretty sure is balanced around having that. Because it is a long, long, long trek. I'm talking Mark Watney long trek between recharging pods. And without that generator, it was either be very, very, very precise and very frugal with your throttle, which I wasn't getting. Upgrading your batteries to just a ludicrous degree, or swapping them out for the next tier up, because of course there's different tiers of batteries, right? There's different tiers of pretty much everything.
Of course, it's a mobile game.
Or fail. So I'm pretty sure that's balanced around having that premium part. And they do trickle you the premium currency in the lottery and in the daily challenge, which there is a daily challenge, by the way, and there's also a challenge mode, which I have to say is the time I actually had the most fun with the game, having some of the weird shit that they built. But that has a life system, which every time you even attempt it, you're burning a life, and that's on a really, really long timer. So yeah. It's one of those things that if you want to play it for a bit, it's really good and a lot of fun for a short time, but you quickly run into that grind. Well, it was good enough to talk about, at least, right?
Yeah. It looks kind of cute, but I don't know if I'd like playing this type of game on mobile.
I just wanted to try it out.
Yeah. Fair play.
And they do have a lot of cosmetic stuff as well. Of course, paid cosmetics. But some of it is definitely, it's cosmetic, but it's not. Especially the things like the track, which in order to get, I think you had to buy a pack. I actually never saw it in the game, but I didn't look at all the cosmetic parts. But it's showing a lot of cosmetics there, so I'm assuming it's from there. But yeah. Once again, if you get something like that sort of thing, it's an interesting thing to play, but otherwise, pass. Or play it for a very short time. Okay, well, here's one that is, I'm not through with the game yet, but it's really impressed me so far. Sally's Law. This is not a free game, but I got it for free because I follow the Google Play sales, and occasionally I see something that's decent enough to try it out, and that was this case. And Sally's Law is a platformer where you're playing actually a daughter and father duo, and it's story driven, which I wasn't expecting. I was expecting, a cute little puzzle, puzzle platformer, and that's about it. But it really goes into what a parent does for their child behind the scenes that the child never really notices until it's too late. The gameplay is actually in two parts. You go through the level as Sally, either as a little girl, 10 or so years old, who is going through troubles with her father. He's having less and less time to spend with her, and grown more distant since his wife died. Yes, we're getting hardcore for a puzzle platform, right? On mobile. And all her levels are pretty easy to go through. It's she's constantly moving forward and tap to jump. Essentially an endless run, only without the endless part. Then, after you get through a set of levels, like 3 or 4 levels, you go back to the start, and you see her father above her, watching over her. And the father is having to traverse another set of level above her and trip gates and get obstacles out of the way of Sally as she progresses through the level for the that you played the first time. Most of the time, hidden away as well. Yeah, it's a very interesting concept. And it's also he's talking about how he wants to protect her and how he has to spend more time to be able to provide for her, at work to provide for her, and he's feeling bad about not being able to spend the time with her like he did, and also having concerns about her moving off to the city because she's wanting to be a writer, and she wants to go to the city to have the life experience to be able to write about. You were not expecting this, were you?
No, it just looks like a weird roly-poly platformer. But it's cute. It's got a really good... That's a really good, interesting way
to show behind the scenes the struggles of a parent.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think this is going to end up being a very sad story, just based on some of the stuff going on. I don't want to spoil the story, and I'm only about halfway through it. It has 5 chapters, and I'm halfway through chapter 3, which puts me right in the middle. But it has some really interesting story gameplay mechanics. Telling the story through the gameplay, I should say. That I just was not expecting at all. And I'm really glad I caught this in a sale to be able to, check it out. Because I always have this hesitation of buying mobile games because I drop off of them so quickly, so often. It's I'm not sure what to really call it. I'm sure you have a term for it.
I actually don't have a term for that.
But you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, I do the same thing. I'll pick up a mobile game and be like, wow, this is really cool. I like this, and then never play it again after the second time.
Yeah, and and even though this is $2 for 49, I have that hesitation of I don't stick with mobile games long enough. Would $2.49 be worth it? Or some of the more expensive ones getting up in the $5 range. And I've heard people talking, particularly Total Biscuit, talking about people balking at buying mobile games for essentially the price of a good cup of coffee or a sandwich. But there's this mental block for me where I just don't stick with these games alone. I don't value them as much as I do on PC. But at the same time, when I have a obviously mobile game come to PC and it has the trappings of mobile, I judge it a lot more harshly because of the environment. So this is also the reverse of that, judging by the environment, where I disvalue a lot of mobile games. But this is making me reconsider something.
Yeah. I'll buy just about any mobile game if it's like $2. Like, if it's something that looks interesting to me.
I just don't stick with them long enough. And most of what I have on my Google Play wallet is, actually, I shouldn't say most, it's just random surveys they sent me through Google Rewards. Filling in the gaps of their data about me. But to be fair, they're already tracking me.
Indeed, they are. I fill out the Google reward surveys too.
Yeah.
That's where I get a lot of little, dollar here, dollar there, spent on a mobile game.
Yeah, I usually get somewhere around a quarter or so on the survey here, 50 cents there. Yeah, that they say, did you find anything when you searched this? Because I just typed in a word in the address bar to spell check it real quick whenever I was typing out something.
Yeah.
And Google Chrome's spell check was spitting out errors on me. It's like, did you mean this? Did you mean this? Do you mean this that starts with a completely different letter? So, yeah, maybe I should reconsider my overall view of mobile games just based on this. Granted, I'm not going to go crazy on mobile games. That's reserved for Steam alone.
Yeah, I'll go crazy on mobile games every once in a while. Download 10 at a time and try them all out.
I mean, I have a bunch of just rated mobile games, free ones that I haven't tried yet. I have a, is it considered a folder, or what is it called on mobile? The mobile equivalent of a folder. Because, mobile has to have its own little things, right? Or
I think
own terms. But I have
They're called groups.
Groups. There we go.
On my phone.
I have my own little group of just random games I've downloaded that I haven't tried yet. You know, it's like, oh, that looks interesting, download. That looks interesting, download. That looks interesting, download. And I realize I'm giving my info to everyone by doing that. But yeah, well, we've already shown that it doesn't really matter because Facebook gives it away anyway.
Too true. And also sad.
So, how about one last game?
Absolutely. What'd you play, Rage?
So I played a game that is going to get Kyle's attention, Windward, or also known as the next entry on Better Than the Sea of Thieves lists. Windward is a sandbox piracy trading naval combat game that's a lot deeper than I was really expecting it to be. Granted, it's not, it's not hugely deep, but it's not very shallow either. So it's a fun pick up and play game, I think is the best way to put it. Where you are commanding a ship and you're just going around doing missions, trading, fighting pirates, joining the pirates potentially, running trade routes, taking drunken sailors off on mission or on little tourist tours. And it's actually a lot of fun. It's I would say it's more of a podcast game though than anything else, because the music does get a little repetitive. But you played Windward, so
yeah, I've played it a little bit. I've never played it a ton. I've always intended to go back and play it, or even play it in multiplayer, because Kyle and Mel's have it, and I think a couple other people in my group do.
To play with me, but I just hadn't played it before, so I didn't know what the hell was going on. And it doesn't really give you an idea going through. At first, it drops you into the game and kind of just kicks you in the ass and say, "Okay, there you go." You know, there's no real tutorials, but it's not that hard to figure out. It's just I've learned some time to be able to sit down and figure out on my own speed without trying to keep up with Kyle.
Yeah. No, it's a fun, fairly easy to understand little game. I'm impressed at how small it is, like when you go to install it. Because there's a huge amount of game packed into a tiny file size. Isn't it less than 100 megabytes?
It's pretty small actually. Well, let's see. Recommended storage is 250 megabytes, but it's also a lot of procedural generation.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's procedurally generated.
Yeah, so
a lot of
so
it.
it's just texture files. It's not, Granted, models aren't that heavy on disk base. It's mostly music actually, music and voiceover. Just audio in general, because this has a looping soundtrack. Maybe that's saving a lot of space as well.
Yeah.
But this is, well, can't really call it a sandbox if it's at sea, can you? A wading pool?
Sea box. Oh, wading pool. Yeah, that's good.
Not too deep, but, nice to get in, splash around in a bit, then get out. The trading mechanics are very basic, but deep enough that if you want to be a trader, you could do that in game. I haven't gotten to the point where I have all the inventory filled out, or for my ship, all the upgrades. So there are some of them that I'm not quite sure what I could do. I would like to see the ability to have more than one type of gun, but that may be asking a little bit too much of a more simplistic game like this. They are working on a second Windward though, so it'll be interesting to see what changes they do.
That's good to hear.
Yeah, I was actually looking in the forums because I was missing the repair button at the bottom. I just didn't see it. I was like, okay, how the hell do I repair my ship? Do I just go back to port? But I was constantly in battle because the game has a spawning pirate ship. So if there's a pirate town in the region, or the pirates take over a town, the pirates will eventually start spawning from that place. And there was a place to the north of me that was constantly spawning ships, and it was keeping me in combat, so I couldn't repair. And I didn't realize what exactly was going on. But overall, fun little experience. It's kind of amazing that Sea of Thieves kind of just fell so flat when there's games out there that are like this that really does it a lot better.
Yeah, I've seen several or a couple of articles talking about the Sea of Thieves and all the content coming for it, and I'm like, that's great. Where was your content at launch, game?
Yeah, there was a big announcement talking about their roadmap, but I think Sea of Thieves is going to be remembered as the next No Man's Sky. Promise a lot, but then just doesn't deliver, and then maybe the games as a service thing kicks in. You see it slowly add content, but I think that's really going to cause a lot of trouble in the long run because it really, really, really burns your initial buyers. And historically, that's what publishers and investors want are those initial sales. They don't care about the long tail. They don't care that Skyrim has sold how many versions, how many copies over the years. What they really cared about was that initial sale, that initial week, that initial weekend, that initial day. And this game as a service thing is just treating games as an early access launch without calling them early access is a fool's errand. And just go play
Bethesda
Windward
cares.
instead.
Yeah, that's good advice. Go play Windward.
Or go play, if you want just a more actual sailing game, go play Make Sail. So there's 2 sailing games. And there's actually a full-blown sailing simulator that runs similar to how Sea of Thieves does, where you're running around the ship and actually manipulating the things. I'm not sure if it was VR, though.
I think that's a VR game. I think I know what you're talking about.
Sail Away, the sailing simulator. Actually, Spaceman wants this game. Let's see. I'm looking to see if there's VR support for it. It doesn't list it as a requirement, so it probably has support. It definitely looks like a VR game, but if you want a more realistic sailing sim, there you go. Green, I've never played this, so I don't know how it does, but there you go. Sea of Thieves.
Indeed.
And maybe we should have traded off so you don't absolutely murderize your throat now.
Yep.
I didn't think about that until just now because you've been muting.
Thankfully, quite a few of mine are pretty short. So, I took a trip down Keymailer Alley this week and decided to play a bunch of games, which I've gotten review keys for. So, to start it off, we've got Stardrift. Stardrift is a isometric drifting game, which is real bad. It's real bad. It looks alright. I like the idea. I've seen a couple of games like this on Steam. And the idea is that it's like you have no brakes aside from your handbrake, which can't really stop your car very well. Just throw you into a slide, and you have to approach every challenge by drifting. And there's races, like normal races that you can do. There's drift challenges. It's sort of an open world. There's different islands, and like that each have different weather themes. The first island has got a few different things, but it's mostly like tarmac.
Now I'm trying to think of a game that I got in Humble Bundle a while ago that is a lot better than this. Keep talking.
There's another, but there's an island that's like a desert theme. There's one that's a snow theme. There's one that's like mountain themed. You get the picture. There's, I think, 7 or 8 islands total that you unlock as you go through. And I like the idea, and I like the challenges that it presents you, and it's fun to just drive around a little bit. But the biggest problem with the game is that it just controls like an absolute mess. It's basically impossible to play with the keyboard because you need analog input to be able to control your throttle properly, because with no real brakes...
Gee, you've had the analog problem as well?
I know. But with no real brakes, You can't really control drifting at full throttle all the time. There's not a lot of really wide, shallow curves where you can just go full throttle the whole time. But then whenever you go to use a controller, number one, you can't plug in a controller to use it in the middle of the game. You have to restart the game for it to detect your controller. You can't remap controls inside the game. You have to launch the little configurer thingy.
Let me guess. Hello, my friend, Unity Launcher.
Yeah. You got it. But it doesn't tell you, because you can't launch the game and then map the controllers. It just has like a generic controller, button 1, button 2, button 3, to map to the different things. And on top of that, it has online multiplayer, but like they tout it as like local multiplayer, couch co-op. And it's one of those games that takes like the old school way of thinking where you can put 4 people on the same keyboard.
Oh no.
And so like you could have to scroll through and find the player 1 controller controls and then figure out which button is button 1. Which button is button 2.
It doesn't even list the buttons. It's button 1, button 2.
Yes.
Oh.
Correct.
I'm glad I didn't play this. I actually got review code for it.
And then on top of that, I was hoping that it would use the most like standard controller layout for racing games. But no, it doesn't. The left stick steers, which good. Right trigger, gas, good. Everything else, completely wrong. There's no brakes, so the left trigger doesn't do anything. And the handbrake is on the right bumper, at least on the Xbox controller. So that's weird and doesn't feel right. And then A, B, X, and Y do like camera things,
hang
and
on,
adjust stuff around.
Yes, this is an Absolute Drift. Go play Absolute Drift instead.
Yeah, I've seen Absolute Drift before. I've never played it, but it looks good.
It sounds. I haven't played the one you're talking about, but this actually handles really well.
Yeah, I think Star Drift is trying to be like Absolute Drift, but it's just doing it badly.
Let's just put it this way: putting Drift on the Steam store does not help finding this game.
Nice. But yeah, it also looks real bad because it's a Unity game, and it's very clear
it's not
that
fair to say it looks bad because it's a Unity game.
Well, it's a low effort Unity game visual, or maybe low effort's the wrong way to say it. Like either it's low effort or it's one dude, and his skill is not in artwork and animation. Like the screenshots look fine, but when you're actually playing it, definitely not in controller layout design. I mean, it's not bad. It's not the worst game I've ever seen. It doesn't feel like an asset flip. If he purchased assets, he either got them all from the same pack so that they
are cohesive,
match theme-wise. Yeah, they're cohesive, but they don't look good. It just all looks messy.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I've spent the entire
Drift.
time trying to find Absolute Drift because I remembered it had Drift in the title, but yeah. Agreeing, Absolute Drift is a lot more minimalistic. And it's also cheaper.
Yeah. I thought they were both $11.99.
I thought Absolute Drift was $10.
Maybe it is.
But yeah, I think the problem is that they're trying to go low poly, but it doesn't look that good. Particularly on what screenshot is this? The second to last. They try to go low poly with the cliffs, but the cliffs on the bottom edge, it just looks like they're kind of jutting up instead of down because of how the shadows are.
Yeah.
I imagine that would be hugely distracting. Plus, it also looks like it's one of those where it obstructs your view occasionally with the environment.
Yes, it does. It does do that. And the camera tries to compensate by swinging wildly in a direction where you don't want it to go.
Oh, because that's going to be useful.
So then you can't see the road, or where you're going, or it makes you disoriented because it'll change orientation slightly to peek around an object.
I mean, some of these levels, they don't look bad. The low poly, low detail design does work. Can work. I could say, but I think the problem is. Okay. Now I see what the problem is. That it's kind of uncanny on the track with the dirt track. All the trees are exactly the same and exactly the same orientation. Look at that. It makes it uncanny.
Yep, and that's everywhere.
I mean, even if you wanted to use the same tree, rotate the fucker.
Yeah, and the whole game is like that. Everything feels that way.
Mute again.
I did it.
You're still a bit low.
Well,
okay,
shit.
Now you're fixed.
It looks fine in Audacity, so
maybe it's just Skype being a bitch. But yeah, that's actually something I learned playing City Skylines. Is that even if you use the same thing over and over again, the same tree particularly, just a slight rotation, so it's not copy and paste, makes things look a lot better. And this looks like it's low effort in its design. It's low effort in its presentation. And when there's a lot more games out there now, you can't really afford to be low effort anymore. There was this talk I saw talking about how it's no longer enough just to be on Steam. That's no longer your entire marketing is, I'm a Steam game. Now you have to put effort in out there to get noticed because there's so much out there on Steam. You're just going to get drowned out if you don't put forth the effort, and this game isn't. Particularly, even the buttons are very low effort. End, escape, restart, return. But it looks like it looks like something I could do in 10 seconds. I mean, not even shading. And it just looks like also the shadows aren't quite right on some of these assets. Yes, now I'm looking closely at the assets. The art, the gameplay guy is looking at art assets.
Well, on all the screenshots and everything, the camera's all pulled out, so it's more difficult to see. But when you're playing, the camera's closer.
Screenshot 3 has it pretty close. And I'm assuming those are supposed to be stacked up tires, but they just look like tubes.
Yeah. So yeah, that's Stardrift. Not very good. If it was like free to play, you could dig around in it for a little while.
If it was a $5 game, would it be worth it?
No, but only on the basis of how frustrating it is to try and get the controller set up right. If they had more standardized controls or just made it easier to remap the controls, $5, yeah, it's worth it. But it's so frustrating to get it working right that no, I wouldn't want to buy this. I'm glad I did not pay any money for this just because I was so frustrated trying to get the damn thing to work right or control right.
Yeah, if you want to make your game minimalistic, you have to make it clean. You have to make it fun. Particularly, you have to make it fun. Usually.
Indeed. And moving on to a minimalistic game, which is fun. Next game on my list, Bare Metal. Bare Metal is super minimalistic, really low poly. The whole game plays with 4 buttons. And it is a tug-of-war style game that's sort of rock, paper, scissors-y.
Okay.
Each button is tied to a specific unit. There's a helicopter, a tank, an anti-aircraft gun, and then like a suicide bomb truck, which carries like a mini nuke.
Like you do.
And you have a power level that's constantly building over time, and each of these units cost different amounts of money to spend. And the helicopter beats tank, anti-aircraft gun beats helicopter, and tank beats anti-aircraft gun. And then they're each like equally effective against themselves. And you just have to outsmart your opponent by deploying the right units at the right time to take them out and destroy their 4 little towers before your 4 little towers get destroyed. Every time a tower is destroyed, you lose the ability to produce that unit, but you get a one-time resource boost so that you can hopefully do like a little comeback. But if you wind up 2 towers down, you're probably fucked.
I would imagine 1 tower down would be very difficult if the AI was anywhere intelligent.
Yeah, it's got multiplayer. Then there's an AI, and the AI scales its difficulty based on how many wins and losses you get against it. And that sort of acts as its tutorial, too. It has like one splash page that's like, here's what the buttons do.
Good luck.
Enjoy. And the AI starts out really disadvantaged in terms of their resource speed. And you'll win like your first 4 games, no problem, and have the hang of it. And then game 5, they're on an even playing field with you. And that AI is smart. Either that or I'm dumb. Because I'm usually pretty decent at games like this, but it tends to stay around level 5 or 6. And 6, the AI has a slight energy advantage over you. But I've never beaten AI level 7. But it's just a really fun game. It takes about 2-3 minutes for most of these matches to play out. And there's no, like, waiting period or penalty or anything. I mean, it's a free game. So they could, like, cram it with microtransactions and timers and energy bars, but they didn't. It's just a fun... It feels like a student project game that was done really well. And the teacher was like, hey, you should put that somewhere and let people play it for free. Make this part of your portfolio. And I guess because Steam Direct, they were like, fuck it, I'll put it on Steam.
Yo, give up $100.
Yeah. I mean, it's not an amazing game by any stretch of the imagination. There's not a ton of depth here, unless you're just really into this type of simple strategy game. But I played it for a couple of hours total and really enjoyed every moment of it. And I've considered going back and playing it. The only thing that really has kept me playing it as like a render time game, because I mean, it just really doesn't require any horsepower at all. It was running at like 9,000 FPS.
Oh, but was it over 9,000?
I can't unfortunately do the voice. My throat won't allow me, but yes, it was over 9,000. So running it would be easy, but typically whenever I render, I have mobile games that I play. But I played this game for a little bit with my kid too, because it's just 4 buttons. I use a controller, so it's A, B, X, and Y. I don't remember what the buttons are on the keyboard. I looked at it briefly, but then I just used my controller. But it's just a minimalist, fun, simple, quick and easy strategy game. And I would say that anybody who needs to kill, 30 minutes or an hour, it's free.
Yeah.
It's pretty good. Worth a shot. And I'm going to keep an eye to see if this person makes any more games. Or has made any more games. But, whoops, I got all my filters turned on. Have they made any more games? Family Jewels.
Yeah, which I do have I'm pretty sure this is review code. I do have a copy of that.
Well, this looks terrible.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely a Unity asset store.
Honestly, though, bare metal doesn't look great. But because it's so clean, you can forgive it.
I mean, I'm pretty sure I've seen that car about 1,000 times now. And it doesn't really gel up with... just look at the concert and look at the different player characters or the different human models on display there.
Yeah.
Is that Trump playing the guitar with the... That looks like Trump, doesn't it?
It does indeed.
Well, no longer want to play any of his games.
Yep, I no longer want to play any of his games. Bare metal, good. This one doesn't look so much.
It looks like he wanted to do something like Goat Simulator.
Maybe another student project game. He was like, I'll sell this one. People will buy this one.
For $10.
I'll give the other one away for free. But the other one's
your first hit's
clearly
free.
The better game. Anyways, Next game on my list, Defense Task Force Sci-Fi Tower Defense. Terrible name.
Yeah, this is one I've had in my backlog just because it has a July release date.
Yeah.
That I don't want to try until closer to release.
Yeah. Terrible name. Really good game. Gameplay mechanics wise. And it's doing a couple of things that I haven't seen with a tower defense before. I don't know if it's completely original, but I've never seen it before. So, for the most part, it's your standard tower defense game.
Non-mazing variety, it looks like.
Yeah. There's a tiny bit of mazing, but it basically comes down to cut off this path or cut off that path. Most of your mazing comes from one of the things that I haven't seen done in other tower defense games before, is that you can purchase or unlock or research. It's not microtransactions, but it's super early, so some of the stuff still isn't quite clear.
Yeah, that's why I haven't played this yet.
How it's going to play out. But you unlock different tile sets for a certain map, which allow you to survive longer. So most tower defense games are survive the waves and defend your tower. This tower defense game says, just survive as long as you can. Your tower is going to get exploded no matter what you do. And you get bonuses for reaching certain milestones and levels. There's certain amount of waves you have to survive to, quote unquote, beat a level. But you get bonus rewards the longer you go. And the sort of story hook for this, because it goes the defense grid route of trying to put together a full-blown campaign story.
Yeah, what's defense grid was very interesting how they did the story.
Yeah. But in this, it's Earth is running out of energy. And we've discovered this alien planet, or this alien material that is infinitely sustainable energy, but it only exists on this one planet, and you have to harvest it by killing these alien creatures.
I think I've seen this movie before. Are they giant Smurfs?
No, they're alien monsters. I don't think any of them look like Smurfs. But, so you've gone there, and, you're the head of the alien energy mining division. And there's different areas on the map which you have to explore, perform recon missions on, which costs some of your resources. There's a lot of details on everything from the weapons to the alien types to the different locations on the planet. And you'll go to a spot on the planet and you'll plop down, depending on which map or tile set you pick for the map that you're on. And it plops down your cheapo energy harvester, and you kill aliens as much as possible to get as much energy as possible. And you get to keep 1% of all of the energy harvested to upgrade your towers, unlock new stuff, and be able to unlock new areas and things like that. And then once you go past however many waves it takes, you start getting a bonus percentage. So the longer you survive, the more stuff you can get. And I mean, it is a tower defense game. If you don't like tower defense games, you won't like this. But if you do like tower defense games, particularly if you like Defense Grid, and you want to see
I would say this is not quite Defense Grid, because Defense Grid is a lot more mazy. This is more laying defense.
No, it is. But in terms of, as long as it turns out being more fleshed out than it is in its current state, the story part, that's where I'm saying if you like Defense Grid, then you might like this. But I mean, as a tower defense game goes, it's a solid tower defense game. It's got a nice little soundtrack too, with some little techno electronica stuff going on. That's a fun game. Doesn't look all that bad either. The aliens look kind of weird.
They're alien.
They are alien. So I like it. It was a good game. I intend to keep playing it. It's also a really good podcast game. Because the goal is to survive as long as possible. Sometimes you'll wind up on levels for 15 or 20 minutes before you get overrun, just managing your towers and your upgrades and stuff. and that's good for listening to podcasts. But that is that. On to my next game, which I'm barely gonna talk about. I played Transport Fever this weekend.
Hang on, I'll put on my shock face.
I had a little bit of a rough week last week. Really busy with some stuff, and then my grandmother wound up in the hospital for a couple of days, which I'm pretty sure I told you about that, right?
Actually, no.
I could have swore I did. Well, yep, my grandmother wound up in the hospital for a couple of days. She's okay. They think her problem is she's just getting old, and her body's starting to fail her. But
Duct tape?
That was stressful. Yeah, duct tape and Gorilla Glue. But that was stressful. So I just wanted a comfort game to play and listen to some podcasts. So I played Transport Fever for, I don't know, a dozen hours this weekend or over the last few days. It's still Transport Fever. If you've heard me talk about it before, I have nothing new to add at this point. I guess if you don't know what it is, it's a transportation management game where that you manage rail, air, truck, and boat transportation for passengers and cargo. It is a solo game, so there's no AI no AI competition, no multiplayer. Just you and
just try not to fuck up, right?
Yep, don't fuck up. So, it's fine. There's tons and tons and tons of mod support for this game. It's got like 5,000 or 6,000 mods in the Steam Workshop. Most of it is adding new vehicles or stations or things like that. But there's a lot of cool cosmetics and some pretty big game-changing ones as well. I like all the future stuff that they added.
Maglev trains?
My favorite. Yeah, quite a few maglevs actually. It's all modded stuff. But Urban Games, which are the people who make Transport Fever, get that on PC the long tail really matters, and one of the best ways to ensure you have a long tail on your game is mod support. So from day one they've been all about mods and have had several mod competitions for various themes, and future content was one of them. It's been fun. It's a good game. You like that sort of thing. But that's really all I'm going to say about it.
And goes chugga chugga.
I've talked about it to death in the past. Choo choo. Next on my list, Armory and Machine. This is a mobile game. And it's a weird experiential mobile game. So I can't really say anything about it without ruining it. It's interesting. It's fun.
Yeah, they really don't show anything of what this is. Is this a clicker?
It's something. I guess I'll talk baby spoilers. The game starts as a clicker and evolves into an RPG.
Okay.
It's the first 20 minutes are really tedious, I'll admit. But once you make it past that, past the initial clicker stage, the game starts transforming into something else. And I don't know how far I am. I don't know how much longer I have to go until I've completed the story. But it's really got me intrigued in the way that the story is told. And that's really all I can say without spoiling. I've kind of already spoiled the first thing that's like hooks you in and is like, whoa, okay, that's different. But yeah, it's a weird game. It's free. As far as I know, it's on the Play Store and iOS. So if you want to check out something that's a little weird, pick up or go play Armory and Machine. Last game on my list, the one that I had the most fun with this week in terms of new games, is Snake Pass. Snake Pass is a physics puzzle platformer.
Sort of.
3D physics puzzle platformer, sort of, where you play Noodle, the cutest little snake you've ever seen. And you slither around the levels, picking up coins for some reason, and bubbles for some reason, and little pieces of totem, which are part of the story. There's been some calamity, and Noodle is the guardian of the forest, and he has to go restore all of the artifacts to reopen all of the warp gates between the different floating islands. The game is absolutely adorable. It's a really fun, interesting, in-depth, difficult physics puzzler with the way that you move around. So you're a snake, you have no arms, no legs, you have to slither everywhere. But you're a really long snake, so that's how you traverse the levels. You will wrap yourself around stuff and slither up it, or you wrap yourself around branches or like these little bamboo pipes to traverse really long.
And don't you have the serpentine to be able to actually move at a decent clip?
Yeah, if you just hold down right trigger, which is how you propel yourself forward, you'll move pretty slowly. But if you actually slither, serpentine like a snake, you'll move pretty quickly. And then in water, you move really fast. But being a snake and moving around, it's just different and fun, and presents some really interesting and unique challenges, because in other platformers, you could just jump or grab onto a ledge and you'd be fine. But if you accidentally get too much of your body off of like a piece of bamboo that you've coiled around, you're just going to fall because you have too much of your weight forward and you don't have enough strength at the end of your tail to grip onto stuff to try and swing yourself back around.
Yeah, I've seen some very interesting tech stuff behind this game, about how they control it. It's essentially a series of weighted balls inside the body.
That makes sense, actually. Because it does feel like that. Feels like a
snake.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's
this
interesting.
This is a game that's designed for kids, so there's no real penalties if you fall and die. You can fall and die as many times as you want to, which is one of my kids' favorite thing to do, is to just drive Noodle off of the edge and be like, oh no, Noodle, he fell and died. It's like, that's because you drove him off the edge.
Your kid is mean to Mr. Noodle.
My kid is mean to Noodle. He like smacks him against things and he smushes him, and there's like some cutesy physics deformation.
But he's adorable.
On, like, the smushy face. Noodle is really adorable. This is one of only 3 games that everyone in my family enjoys playing it. I like it because it's actually got some real depth and challenge to it for going and getting all the bubbles and the coins, which are like the extra collectibles. The 3 main like totem pieces you have to collect on every level are relatively easy to get. I mean, you have to make use of the new mechanics that you learn as you go through, but I mean, they're all really easy to get. My kid is able to beat the first few levels. My 4-year-old is able to beat the first few levels before they really start adding any new mechanics in. And with a little bit of help, he can beat the later levels too. I have to help him climb up some of the more difficult stuff.
And then he just drives right off. Oh no, Mr. Noodle.
He does do that. Oh no, Noodle. I've recorded several videos. I might post one for everyone to see. But my kid loves it because it's cute. I mean, it's, made for him. I love it because it's actually a really well-designed game that has got some interesting in-depth mechanics. And then Katie loves it because it's easy enough for her to play too. Because Katie's really bad at video games, traditionally.
Well, we're going to have to get her in gaming boot camp. And record it, of course. Now, this is your gun. There's many like it, but this one's digital.
So yeah, Snake Pass, Mario Kart, and
Spin Tires?
Spin Tires are the only games that all 3 of us like to play.
Which, technically, you can make it 4 if you want to split up the Spin Tires into the 2 games.
Yeah, technically.
It's technically correct.
There's some other mechanics, too, that get introduced. Like, you have to use the physics to manipulate levers and things. And again, because you don't have hands or feet, you have to be a snake, and you'll have to slither up and wind yourself around a lever, for example, and rock yourself over so that your weight topples the lever over. You can use your snake body to propel or to like push boulders and stuff. There's
I'll be definitely picking this up during the summer sale.
Yeah, there's lots of little stuff, and I mean we've only made it to like level 7 or 8. I don't know how many levels there are, but my kid's a completionist, and so he doesn't like to leave a level until we collect all the bubbles, all the coins, and
even
the
if it's
pieces.
a Metroidvania style game. You should introduce him to Metroidvania and start recording.
Oh God,
how am I supposed to get up there?
Forever. So far, nothing seems to require mechanics that you get later on.
You said you were on what level?
We're on 7 or 8.
Do you want to know how many there are?
Sure.
15.
Okay. So we're about halfway there then. The game's got 3 modes. It's got story mode, arcade mode, and time trial mode. And I don't really know what the difference is between story mode and arcade mode, honestly. It seems the same. I don't know if there's something counted separately. You can only play story mode until you've beat a mission once. And then you can go back and play arcade. And then the time trial mode is exactly what it sounds. Times you for how long it takes to collect the totem pieces and win.
Yeah, but how does he actually manipulate the stopwatch?
With his mouth.
I don't want to use the stopwatch anymore.
You can change Noodle's expression. He has 4 expressions. You can use the D-pad on your controller to change his expression. He makes lots of cute little noises. The only problem I have with the game is the soundtrack is super repetitive.
Well, it's meant for kids, so of course it's repetitive.
There's one song for each level set. They're broken up into sets of 5. And there's one song for each 5 levels in the set. And then you get a new song for the next 5 levels. And it gets real old fast. I mean, it's good. Like, the soundtrack is nice, but when you've heard the same song on loop for 3 hours, that's enough for me.
Interesting. I was seeing what else they've made, and they made Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing. I didn't realize that was the same developer.
I love Sonic All-Stars Racing. Cool. But yeah, if you have kids up to the age of 10, they're gonna love this. I don't know if your preteen or your teenager is gonna like it because they might be too cool for it.
Too edgy. You gotta let them go to the store with all the emo kids.
But yeah, I mean, if you like puzzle games or if you have a kid that's 10 or younger, this game is amazing, and I would recommend it to anybody. Don't try and play it keyboard and mouse. It's functionable, but it's much better with a controller. And as far as I know, it supports all controllers by default. Like, you don't have to do anything weird. But yeah, Snake Pass. Good game.
So don't pass
Real
on it.
Real good game. Don't pass on it.
Yeah, I don't think it's gone on a major discount until it was in the Humble Monthly.
Yeah, that's where I got this from, was the Humble Monthly. But yeah, that's it for the games we played this week.
Hey, look at the 90-minute mark.
Yeah. I need to go get something warm.
And then hock it up.
Yep. So let's take a short break here. And then when we come back, we'll do the news.
Assuming you didn't, completely throw out all your lungs. Remember, hold on to one.
Indeed. We will pick up where we left off
content.
with the news.
Are we going to skip the YouTube stuff again? Because we did 90 minutes.
Let's see where we're at when we're done talking about the news. Right. Our first news topic of the day, or the night, Cliff Bleszinski accuses Epic Games of stealing their staff.
Oh, boy. Is it me, or can he not stop causing drama and bad juju around his games lately.
Yeah, no, I think that's a thing that he's just doing. Cliffy has always had a knack for drama in the public eye. I mean, I obviously I have never met him or never talked to him, but some people that I follow, like on YouTube and Twitter and stuff, who have, say that like privately he's a really cool, chill, down to earth guy.
But he gets on
his
stage.
Yeah, but his when he gets on stage, he goes crazy and does have a thing for drama. So he went on Twitter and said some stuff. I'm pulling up if you have the article open.
He said, Hey at Epic Games, can you please stop trying to hire away my team? We just launched Radical Heights on Unreal 4 and are really happy with how it's going. There's room at this genre for more than a few games. SMH. What does SMH mean?
Maybe I'm old.
No, I'm serious. I
don't know what
really
SMH means
until I was reading that. It's like, wait, is that an acronym I don't know? Shaking my head, at least according to Google.
Well, welcome to the old man portion of the podcast where we don't know
where we say get off our fucking lawn.
I mean, I feel like one of the old women in that Facebook commercial or whatever, where it's like, that's not how any of this works. Where they're like trying to do Facebook in real life. They're all sitting around talking in the living room, and one of them's like, you make me so mad. I'm going to unfriend you. You're not my friend anymore. She's like, has all these pictures taped to the wall, and she starts pulling them off. She's like, I don't want to see your pictures anymore. And the other lady stands up. She's like, that's not how any of this works. That's what I feel like right now.
Well, at least I wasn't the only one that didn't know what SMH stood for.
Well, I mean, I feel like you have more of an excuse than I do. You're not an old man, but you're a decade older than I am.
Hey,
I'm still in my 20s, man. I should know all this stuff.
Yeah, but see, that would require you to be hip. Did they still call it hip?
I've got a hip. I think I would have to be on fleek. I heard I heard my cousins who were teenagers say that. The ones who I've described before as more like my nieces and nephews. I heard them say that over Easter when we all got together.
Hang on, I'm going to Urban Dictionary. Pretty sure this is a sexual thing. But yeah. Okay, back to the...
God, we're old. I like it. I like being old and not knowing what the kids these days are saying.
Yeah, but see, the thing is that we're having to go to out of the loop more for answers than giving... more for the answers than to supply the questions. Or we need to supply the questions more than just getting the answers now. It's like, what does this mean? Okay, so back on topic?
Yeah. Sure.
So,
I'm looking up on Fleek.
I'm immediately I'm reading directly from the comicbook.com article. Took to the thread to share their thoughts, including one Epic Game employee himself. We have plenty of ways to make it our own, but they may never see the light of day if they keep doing this. And William McCarroll said, with all due respect, assuming that Epic is the one starting contact / poaching, it's a bit presumptuous. We all had our own reasons for making the choice to leave Big Key Productions for Epic. And to act like we are commodities that are being stolen is a bit hurtful. We're people first and foremost. Damn. Right?
So on fleek means basically on point or, well done or good.
So bad?
Why? But it means good. Why would it be bad? All right. Sorry. I'm done with that adventure. now. I'll pay attention.
But yeah, it's just basically Cliff Blazinski, CliffyB, because we have to call him CliffyB because he hates the term CliffyB, is in competition with Bluehole for the sourest of sour grapes in the industry, at least in this genre. After really kind of driving lawbreakers and a lot of people that may be interested in the game away, and now it looks like he's doing it all over again, doesn't he?
Yeah, I intended to play Radical Heights this week to just see. And I do like the art direction or aesthetic of it. That's
or
sort
at least
of
what's
80s.
completed of it, because there's a lot of placeholder and there's a lot of missing textures.
Yeah, that 80s Running Man type of thing, I think that's neat. So I just wanted to like check it out, but I didn't get to it.
I'm actually surprised we
Maybe
haven't
next
seen
week.
a proper take on the Running Man.
Yeah, me neither, actually. Because that would be the Running Man was basically a video game. I mean, I know it's not, but basically that's a video game. You go through a series of levels, killing everyone in your way to get to your goal. Video game. Bam. Although they had,
Evolve tried to do
it?
this, but turned into more hide and seek. They have to be very careful on how they balance it, but the Running Man could be its own thing.
What was it? It's an older game. It was an arcade game, and it might have came to older home consoles. Something TV.
Smash TV?
Smash TV.
Yeah, that was a twin-stick shooter that was basically a score attack game.
Yeah, but wasn't that... It was
it had
game
the same
show
style, yeah. And a matter of fact, if I remember correctly, it was styled after the Running Man itself.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I was thinking, like, there was a sort of Running Man inspired game.
Yeah, but with the uptick on Battle Royale, you could see a subgenre of Battle Royale where it's, 1 versus, like 10. Where the one is trying to escape. Granted, it has to be done a more open world-ish. They couldn't do it like the Running Man where they could just sit and wait, because then you're turning it into what Evolve had problems with, where it was just a hide-and-seek game. Yeah, it has to have some sort of active pursuit and active combat between the competitors, while being on the move. It would be very tough to balance and very tough to iron out, but we are completely off topic.
Indeed. CliffyB's a drama queen. Will his drama wreck
another game?
Another game.
I have to wonder if this is a sign that Radical Heights already feels like it's a Hail Mary play, being rushed out way too early to begin with. That things are very, very bad at that studio, with people leaving and he's yelling at the rats for leaving a sinking ship. I mean, that's what this feels like to me.
Yeah. I'd say Cliffy himself will be fine. He's a big enough name and face in the industry. And unless he put all of his money into this project, he's still got some bankroll. But, I mean, I don't blame his employees for wanting to leave.
For actually wanting some
like
job
you said,
security. Because
it
feels like Radical Heights is that, last gasp. And I'm not the only one that said that. And if it continues to trend downwards, which it is starting to on Steam charts, graded less than a week, and it's a middle of the week, so it's not fair to say, oh, well, it's trending downward, the game's dead. No, it's not. It still has several thousand players. It's still well enough off that it's not going to have matchmaking problems yet. But if they don't turn this around and make it at least a viable Battle Royale game, I think their studio's gone. And you were talking about how, CliffyB, he's a big enough name. He could bounce back from this. It wouldn't ruin him. Well, Peter Molyneux, he's also a big name, and he's also, doing fine. But he's also a joke.
Yeah. Cliffy feels more like a joke though than Peter Molyneux. Like, just looking at Cliff Blazinski, I feel like he makes a better joke than old Molyneux.
Well, that's just because Mr. Cueball himself is a bit of an old joke these days, and you kind of see it coming. It's Peter Molyneux is the equivalent of a knock-knock joke. You know that there's a punchline coming, so it takes some of the impact out.
I know that Cliff has worked on Gears of War. That's where he really became known. Mm-hmm. What else has he done besides that and Lawbreakers?
Well, let's see. Video games. He did the Jazz Jackrabbit series back in the 90s. Unreal, up through Unreal Championship 2. Gears of War 2, Shadow Complex, Bulletstorm, which also didn't do all that well. But I wouldn't put that on his feet. That's more Games from Windows Live fucking that up. Gears of War 3, super hot co-designer of an arena stage, so not really there. Lawbreakers and Radical Heights. So he hasn't actually done a lot outside of Gears of War and Unreal.
Yeah. So he might have been known back in the Unreal days, and I didn't hear about him until Gears of War. But
yeah, I think he had a leading role in Gears of War. He was a director, so.
Yeah. I remember watching like some, because I had the, I don't know, like the steel-backed special edition or whatever for Gears of War, because I was a kid then, and I used to buy shit like that because I was dumb. But it did include a lot of bonus features, and
yeah, it looks like he was a designer.
Did a number of interviews.
So yeah, he's maybe he just didn't get a lot of attention until Gears of War, because Gears of War was a pretty big game back in its day.
Yeah, Gears of War was one of the bigger system sellers for the Xbox 360 in the early days. That was one of their big flagship franchises. It was Halo and Gears of War. That was about it that I remember. People being like, buy an Xbox 360 for this. At least in, like I said, in the early days. Because Gears of War came out on the 3rd or the 4th year of the Xbox 360.
I don't know. I can't remember.
I
wasn't a console player.
The Xbox 360 launched in 2002. Gears of War came out in 2006. But, depending on how specific dates line up, it's 3 or 4 years. But
yeah, he only really has the Unreal series and Gears of War really to his name since the 2000s.
Yep.
Well, let's put it this way. Radical Heights doesn't even have a Wikipedia page yet.
I kind of feel bad for him, honestly. I mean, he's in his 40s.
It's one of those things that he's brought this on himself a bit with how he's acted towards media.
Yeah, he's in his 40s, but he's still behaving like he's a 20-something-year-old. He does look pretty young, though. When his hair's all floppy, he's cute. But when his hair's all short...
you're on the Wikipedia page?
Yeah. But, yeah.
Yeah, it's just... I guess it's a little harder for me to feel bad for him after watching some of the montage stuff for... Lawbreakers, because I gotta be honest, I never really paid that much attention to him because I wasn't a Gears of War fan, so never really had the interaction with them. I played a bit of Unreal Tournament back in the day, but never really paid attention to the designers, the people behind it. So Lawbreakers was where I started hearing a lot about him, and to borrow I guess a phrase from Yahtzee, sounded like a total knob end. Or bell end, or...
I think it's funny.
Oh, I don't know. We're going to have to get a ruling on this. Yahtzee?
I've heard both. Bell end and knob end. I think it depends on what region of the UK you're from.
But anyway, it came off as not someone I wanted to really support. And Lawbreakers, it had its own issues. It's not just CliffyB that sunk it. It never really taught its unique mechanics, and they messed with movement, and you really have to hammer home changes on movement to be able to play it well or have it played well, and they didn't. It seemed like from everything that I've heard.
Yeah. Part of this too, this whole deal feels like Cliffy taking out some old frustration on Epic.
Yeah, because he came from Epic, didn't he?
Because, yeah, he did. And he had problems with them, at least on Gears of War. I don't know how far back it goes, but I remember in that behind the scenes like footage that they put together and those bonus features on the special editions of Gears of War that I had, he was constantly at odds with the other lead developers. And I mean, he's one of those forces though. Like, he's got some really brilliant ideas, but he needs people to rein him in.
He's George Lucas.
And now he is. Oh my God, he's video games George Lucas. Oh shit. When's he gonna go back and remaster Gears of War?
Is this a good or a bad comparison?
Actually, it's a pretty good comparison. Because in my head, I started forming that sentence, and I was like, this is kind of like George Lucas. When he's got a team of people around him who are willing to tell him no on certain things, he makes really, really compelling stories.
But the thing is that
when he gets in charge,
when he goes absolutely apeshit, I think he's one of these designers, one of these developers that he eats the Phil Fish rule. He never goes on social media, and he never does an interview. Because Phil Fish is made a very, very interesting game. But, well, let's put it this way. There's a reason why he had Andy Kaufman as his avatar. Oh, boy. He loved to stir shit up to the point where he basically chased himself out of the industry because he pissed everyone off. I'm not sure if he's talked on and off about coming back, but and I'm imagining CliffyB, we may see that in a couple of years.
Yeah, if he keeps down this path and doesn't have someone or is unable to rein himself in, then he's gonna wind up a Peter Molyneux or a Phil Fish or something like that. Maybe
you should switch to decaf. Yo, rein the energy back a little bit. You know?
Yeah. He should be a Sean Murray. At least that way, he doesn't get in trouble for going and posting shit on social media.
He fucking disappears?
Yeah, you hear from Sean Murray like once a year.
Probably a better thing that we only hear from Sean Murray once a year now. Granted, Sean Murray is someone that you shouldn't be aspiring to, though.
No. Which is odd because of how successful No Man's Sky actually turned out once it had some real development. Or once it had enough time to recover from Sony's meddling.
Honestly, I don't think it's all Sony. I think it was a mixture of the two.
Yeah, it's definitely both. But that game...
It's games as a service is coming back to bite a lot of games, I think.
Well, I mean, No Man's Sky needed like 8 more months of development. If it had released with its first content patch, it would have been at least closer to a full retail price game in value. You know, some of that always comes down to the person, but the first content patch added a lot of the stuff that they said was supposed to be at launch, aside from the multiplayer.
Yeah, which they never put full multiplayer in. You have Navi flying around, and that's it, isn't it?
Yeah, unless that's changed.
Well, there's a big
massive update that...
Yeah, there's some sort of big ARG going on that they're teasing the next update with.
I almost played No Man's Sky this week. I launched it, and I sat and I looked at the menu, and I was like, I'd rather play Transport Fever as a comfort game right now.
You don't want to feel like you've wasted your money anymore?
No, I enjoy No Man's Sky. After I mean, you know, whenever I came back to it after the first couple of big 10 patches. I really enjoy it now. But No Man's Sky requires a little more attention than Transport Fever for me, because No Man's Sky is still heavily reliant on the exploration mechanics
survival.
and using the exploration and the survival mechanics. You have to pay more attention to it. And it's still a very podcastable game, but I wanted to be on pretty much cruise control. And for me, Transport Fever is cruise control, because I've played that game enough that I'm just like, okay, here's what the maps look like, here's what I need to do, click, build, and then watch my trains go.
Choo-choo.
But yeah, so somehow from Epic Games all the way to No Man's Sky. We did it. I don't know what we get for that, but we did it. So, moving on to our next news topic. ASUS teases the ROG gaming phone.
The ROG.
And this is the ROG. The news article for this is very bare bones, but this is more of a discussion topic. Is there really a need or a point for a gaming-focused smartphone? Because, so my phone, Samsung Galaxy S8
Yeah,
Plus,
I have a
one
Galaxy 7, so.
So my phone was one of last year's flagship phones for, the various companies, and yours would have been one of the flagship phones for the year before that. And these really high-end smartphones come already with top-end mobile hardware. I was actually comparing the specs on my phone to what this phone is supposed to be, or what they're saying that's going to be in it. And I'm using last year's chipset for what they're using. So the only thing that this phone has over mine is it's got 120 hertz refresh rate display.
Would that even matter? Because I would imagine a lot of games are probably frame locked.
Yeah, most smartphone games are either locked to 30 or 60. My phone has a 60 hertz refresh rate display. So I can always tell whenever something is actually playing at 60 versus 30, which it's actually a pretty big shock. There's almost everything is by default 30 on smartphones, and that's a combination to cut down on bandwidth because for so many downloads and streaming and applications and stuff like that. You're only having to stream half the data if it's at 30 versus 60.
Assuming that it's a streaming game, but more probably just so it doesn't max out the phone and eats up more battery power.
Yeah, well, that too. That was the second point I was going to get to. Battery life.
I would say probably the big thing for this is the battery size. A 4,000 milliamp battery.
That's pretty good, actually.
I would say that's probably the selling point, really, more than anything else.
Technically, the size of the battery isn't everything because you have to be.
Yeah, but this is a bigger.
Particularly your OS has to be optimized.
Yeah, but this is a bigger reservoir to pull from. So
that's true. Yeah, I've only got a 3,500 milliamp battery in my phone.
3,000, but it's getting up there in age, so it's probably more like 2,200 right now, just due to age.
2,100 effective.
Yeah. Which that would be essentially a little bit more than double my effective battery. So that is actually good, but do you need that? Who plays? I shouldn't say. I know the answer to this already. Who plays mobile games for that long? Teenagers, right? Playing mobile battle royale or whatever. Angry Birds 2 or I don't know. Whatever the big mobile games are now. That's the only thing I could think of.
PUBG and Fortnite.
Yeah,
I've seen plenty of articles where teachers are complaining about PUBG Mobile and Fortnite Mobile being huge problems in schools right now. Which, I mean, I don't know how much. Again, mobile games are designed to work on as many devices as possible, much like PC games. But they tend to appeal to the lowest common denominator. So most mid-range smartphones, stuff that's in your like $300-$400 range, are going to be able to run 99% of the games as well as my $1,000 smartphone. So, I mean, is there a niche market out there for it? Sure. I might be interested mostly for the high refresh rate display and the battery. But other than that, I mean, if you've got a really high-end smartphone, you don't necessarily need to shell out probably the extra.
Yeah, but to be fair, also people don't
$300-$400.
People don't need to buy the new iPhone every year, but people do.
That's true. I buy. My strategy is sort of what I do with PC parts when I can, future-proofing as much as possible, and so that's why every 3 years I'll buy one of the top-end smartphones, and then I'll hold on to it for 3 years or so. I had my Galaxy Note 3 whatever for 3.5 years. And that phone was great. Unfortunately, they didn't release a new Note last year when I bought the S8 Plus. Otherwise, I would have went for the Note. Because I like big, chunky technology. I pretty much go, what's the biggest phone on the market? Or the biggest
the Zach
phones,
Morris
and then compare
brick
from there.
cell phone?
Well, I don't want just a cell phone though. But I know which phone you're talking about. But yeah, I don't want just that. I want a smartphone. But there was a survey on MTurk that I filled out the other day that was asking about smartphone stuff, and it was like, out of all of these feature sets, what matters the most to you? And it was like phone size, screen size, that sort of thing. And then you had to pick between randomly generated samples of phones. Those. And I picked every time I went screen size and then OS. And I'd pick the biggest screen unless that one was an iOS device, in which case I would pick the one with the next biggest screen that wasn't.
You do realize that's a tablet, right?
So yeah, but it needs to fit in my pocket.
Cargo pants.
It fit in my pocket. I do wear cargo pants and cargo shorts a lot.
Just have a kangaroo pouch.
I had a tablet a couple of years ago, and I got rid of it because I was like, I don't want to use this again. But I've actually gotten to the point where I like playing mobile games more than I did, just because it's nice to sit on the couch and my kid's like, oh, let's watch this movie that we've seen 100 times. And I'll be like, okay, I'll watch this movie with you, and I'll get my phone out and I'll just play games while he sits next to me under another round of
pit cross. Yeah, I'm probably going to look at getting a tablet later. Nothing too expensive, but then again, Android tablets are actually fairly cheap for some decent ones.
Yeah,
and we just said that you don't need the high end stuff for most stuff now.
No, you don't. So, and my tablet's not going to go everywhere with me. It's just going to be a device to use at home. If I want to kick back on the couch, particularly in my office, because when everyone goes to bed, I come and I hermit inside my office. And I still don't have that TV set up that I've talked about before. And Katie and I can't agree on where to put it anyways. So I'm laying on the couch using my phone. And it's getting late, and I can't, I'm having to squint. I'd like to have a bigger screen. First world problems, man. First world problems.
Yeah, my screen isn't too big, or isn't big enough.
I'm getting a new Bluetooth controller soon, though, because the one that I'm using is for the Wii U, and it's not natively supported in Android anymore because of some weird Nintendo shit. And you can hack it, air quotes, hack it to get it working. You can rig it up. But it's annoying.
Test it. I wonder if the PlayStation 4 controller, if it picks up the trackpad as a mouse cursor.
Don't know.
If it does, that's the perfect Android phone or Android controller. I love the DualShock controller.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna get another Xbox One controller. The new ones use Bluetooth. The older ones use that proprietary wireless shit that they had. But I'll get a new one that uses Bluetooth. And then I'll have 4 Xbox controllers for that rare occasion whenever some friends come over and want to play a game on Xbox.
Oh, look at you having friends over.
It's usually when my in-laws are here, honestly. Because whenever my friends come over, we're like, let's get out the Wii U and play Smash Brothers or Mario Kart. When my in-laws are here, they're like, let's play Halo. Or Call of Duty or whatever. Although I'm including the Chinese exchange students in that. I mean, they're part of the family now after living with my in-laws for years. Their family. They like to play Halo. And also a range of weird Chinese mobile games, which I kind of like because they're all anime-y.
Well, does this mean that you're going to divorce me because I absolutely hated Halo?
Nah, it's fine. You like Mech Warrior? We can still bond.
Oh my. Bonding in an Atlas. Oh.
Oh yeah.
The mechs are rocking.
I think that pretty well covers that.
Yeah, we
though.
are completely off course. It's going to be a niche thing to begin with. I don't see it selling a lot unless it gets some sort of deal.
Yeah. I mean, I would buy one for the high refresh rate display and the battery size. But there are other smartphones
I just thought
that
of
have.
something. Okay, so how much is the battery going to be eaten up by the high refresh rate on the display?
Yeah,
because that requires a lot more horsepower behind the scenes, and it's one of those weird things that they're putting out more horsepower, but they up the refresh rate. So is it going to balance out? And you're going to hit a lot of games that just doesn't use it.
Yeah. Something they could do to keep the battery usage down is, and you can do this, like my smartphone already does this. It's got an adaptive display, and it detects whatever stuff is running at and will adjust the refresh rate accordingly. It's not a perfect solution. It sometimes gets it wrong, I'm sure, but in general, that would probably be a good way to handle it.
Yeah.
But anyways,
speaking of handling things poorly,
EA pledges to do better or be better after the Star Wars Battlefront 2 debacle. And you can't see me, but I made the air quotes fingers.
Oh boy.
Better.
So this is where the title of the episode comes in, the apology cycle. This is something that's been going on in AAA games a lot lately, where particularly surrounding Destiny lately, but EA wants to jump on this cycle of things, where a company does shitty thing, apologizes kind of half-heartedly, which this has some really weird wording on the apology, and then continues to do shitty things. But then again, EA, I'm not going to call them evil. I'm very tempted to call them almost incompetent, because they've done some stupid shit, particularly when they buy out smaller companies, then move the talent away from the company, and then complain about the company not performing well anymore.
Yep.
But let's see.
The EA way.
But this is from, how do you even pronounce this name? Because it has an umlaut over the O. So
Suderland? Patrick
Well, I
Suderland?
didn't want to butcher it.
I don't know, I'm just guessing.
He was recently appointed the company's chief design officer. Because that sounds like a great title to have, doesn't it? It's clear to us that players see the company differently than we do. No shit. And in that situation, as a member of the executive team, I have no soul. Oh, sorry. I'm editorializing again. As the guy who runs all the studios, I have to take that seriously. And we have to continue to listen and understand what's triggering that. How about your shitty practices? That's what's triggering that. Stop editorializing? Okay. We have to be very cautious of what we do. We have to take action and show people that we're serious about building the best possible products, that we're serious about treating the players fair, and we're here to make the best possible entertainment that we can. And in the cases where we don't get it right, we just have to listen and learn from it and be better. Good sentiment? But we've been here before.
Many times before.
I mean, we've been here last time Battlefront came out from EA. Pretty much this, well, not word for word, but the same idea behind the statement was pretty much there right after Battlefront, because of a lack of a single player and some just lack of content in general, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And well,
for the first
yeah,
Battlefront.
and here we are again over loot boxes this time. Was there a complaint about the content in Battlefront 2? Or it was all drowned out by the loot boxes, so.
Yeah, no, most people were much happier with the amount of content, even though people were disappointed overall in the single-player campaign. The sentiment was, well, it had a single-player campaign, and that's a step in the right direction, and there were more game modes, or the game modes that they were more in-depth. In general, people were happy with the content that was in the game. They just hated the way that you had to get all of the content.
What, you don't want to play 40 hours to unlock Darth Vader?
I mean, maybe, but only if Darth Vader is like the last unlock and you get everything else along the way.
No. Darth Vader's the first unlock.
Oh, well then fuck you.
Well, you've been trying.
Have I?
Wait, this is you not trying?
No, I'm saying maybe you already did.
I think I would remember that, unless you're Bill Cosby. Oh my. I thought the Jello tasted weird. And there goes all the listeners. Once again, this is just, I guess this is just an episode showing really the dark side of treating games as a service instead of a product. Is that you could excuse to yourself or to your investors putting out a game that isn't ready for prime time and say, oh, we'll patch it later. We'll still get all the sales immediately. But I do hope that the gaming general public will wise up to these actions. But that's the thing, is that I don't think a lot of them will. I think they'll just see Star Wars and like, oh, I like Star Wars, I'll get this.
Yep, I agree with you. But there seem to be enough of us to be pushing this in a direction. I don't know if it's enough to push it all the way back or if it's just to stem the tide, but I'll take little victories where I can get them.
I just have to wonder if they didn't fuck with Star Wars, if they fucked with another property that wasn't as beloved by the general public, would we have seen the legal side of the backlash? Seeing the governments of the world take dose of loot boxes. I don't think we would have.
I don't think so either. At least not at that point. Maybe eventually on the smaller titles, but they'd been doing it with other titles for a long time, and then they pushed it to the big one.
FIFA is the big example of that, where it's literally pay to win for one of the modes, and it's there's the disconnect between essentially the two halves of general gaming, where sports games are kind of just off to the side doing their own thing. They're hermits like you.
Yay!
You're a sports game.
Yay! I'll take it. Not my first pick, but I'll take it.
Yeah, but look at it this way. You get a bunch of muscular men.
Yeah. I'll definitely take that.
And microtransactions.
Do I still get the muscular men?
If you unlock them.
Fair play. I'll grind that out, if you know what I mean. Oh.
It's just... I really wish EA would learn. I wish Activision would learn. But I don't think we will. I don't think they care enough about the enthusiast level until they stir up enough shit.
Yeah, I don't believe they've learned anything. I just believe that they're going to try harder next time to not get caught.
Yeah, they're just going to step back a little bit. They're going to ratchet down the bullshit from 10 to an 8.
For a little while, and then they'll try turning it up to 10 again.
Then they'll turn it up to 8.5.
Yeah. Fair play.
I have to wonder just how much redesign they're doing. Because BioWare has to be in a very, very bad state right now. Yeah. Which saddens me, because I really like some of old BioWare stuff. Probably my favorite of theirs is, the black sheep of the family, though, Jade Empire.
I really like Jade Empire.
It's one of the games that just gets, nobody thinks about it. I would say it's, the black sheep. Yeah. It's just it's not Mass Effect. It's not Dragon Age. It didn't spawn a huge franchise. It was just its own thing.
Just a good, solid mid-tier game. There's very few of those these days, which we've lamented over.
Well, we're seeing more and more out
from
the indie side of things, with the occasional thing from the bigger publishers. A Way Out is a good example that they mentioned here. A Way Out seems to be EA trying to step back from their ways, but at the same time, I'm too cynical to see it that way. I'm seeing them as maybe trying to bring in some new talent. It's tough for me to see it as a step of goodwill when we've seen them have so much ill will towards the general gaming public, and talking about how a lot of our concerns were overblown, that were out of proportion, or how we should feel a sense of pride and accomplishment. I think I hear the chuckle. Or you're just hacking up a lung again.
I'm playing with my hair. Just sort of, just a little bit of a chuckle.
Making yourself feel pretty. Do you need a hair tie?
No, I've got a hair tie over here. I'm just playing with my hair. It smells really nice.
But I just hope that we could get off this apology cycle.
I hope we do too. But let's be real. We won't.
At least until the general gaming public starts to embrace indies a lot more. Not saying that indies are suffering. It's just, whenever you see an indie sell 1 million copies, it's, a surprise. Whenever you see Star Wars fail to meet its sales goal of 7 million, it's also a surprise.
Yeah. Ooh, that was a mistake.
What?
I have some Kool-Aid, some mixed berry Kool-Aid, and I wasn't thinking, and I took a sip of my coffee and then a sip of Kool-Aid.
Ugh.
That was real dumb of me. Ooh, sour.
As almost as sour as Cliff Bleszinski?
Not quite that sour. All right. Well, fuck you, EA.
And fuck the Oscars.
Moving on.
Should we just skip the YouTube stuff? We're past the 2:15 mark.
Well, if we don't, we're gonna wind up short this week. Would you rather be short or long?
Oh my. It's up to you. I'm trying to think of your thought.
I appreciate that. I really want to do the YouTube thing though.
Okay.
So, moving on to our community corner this week. It's us with a host recommendation thingy. We've done podcasts, and obviously we recommend games all the time. But even though we post videos on YouTube and stuff like that, we've only really ever talked about a few YouTubers that we like. So each of us came up with a list of YouTube
I
channels.
Actually added a couple more that I thought of after the initial list, so I have even more.
Right. So what we're going to do is we'll alternate between these, and then you have more than me, so you'll get the last couple. But you can start.
Okay, and mine is in alphabetical order, and we all know that the alphabet starts with the number 8, right? So I have the 8-bit guy. This is one of the many tech-focused channels I have, and he does a lot of retro stuff and some teardowns as well. And it's really interesting to see some of the hardware that I grew up with, some of it that I missed, and really seeing some of the interesting stuff out there because he does modern retro stuff as well. He has he has a Commodore a Commodore 64 Mini that he reviewed very recently. So another one of these modern mini consoles. And it's very interesting just seeing some of the oddball stuff.
Well, I think there's going to be at least a mini trend between your and my recommendations, because I've got some of these type channels in here as well. But this is one I've never heard of before, so subscribe. Because I love this kind of stuff. Yeah,
he's more focused on just general tech instead of gaming. He does have some, a fair amount of older gaming stuff, but it's not limited to just gaming. He has a lot of computer stuff as well. He did a teardown on the new little sort of desktop arcade machines, and actually found out that you could swap a pin in them to change the game in
them. Nice.
But yeah,
this is. I want to do this as a hobby in a few years. When
I was very interested.
I was
very interested in electronics and figuring out how they work. And just growing up in the late '80s, early '90s, didn't have the resources to be able to understand it.
Yeah, and I'd love to mess around with a lot of the tech when I was a kid that I missed because I was a kid. But I mean, I'm up to 4 PCs sitting here on my desk. 2 of them functional. 1 of them probably functional. The other one completely dead. But yeah, one day in the future, when I hopefully have money to spend on a second hobby, because gaming, I spend a lot of money on gaming. That's my primary hobby. But this would be an excellent secondary hobby. So I follow several YouTube channels that do this sort of thing.
Oh, now you follow another one.
Indeed, I do. So the first one on my list, I also went alphabetical, and as we all know, the alphabet actually starts with C.
No, it starts with 8. Actually, technically,
C.
It starts with the, because it's the alphabet.
So, yeah, I see what you did there. So the first channel recommendation I have is Counter Arguments. Counter Arguments is a sort of logic, rational ideas channel that goes over it provides counter arguments to stupid things that people say on TV or on the news or YouTubers, and some of the topics that he tackles are pretty big. Some of them are smaller and more localized, but his most recent video, there was a YouTuber who was saying that 16-year-olds shouldn't be able to vote, and he put up a counter argument to why 16-year-olds should be allowed to vote. And he's done videos on religious freedoms. He's directly tackled things that Kellyanne Conway or Donald Trump or other people have said.
Trump in the thumbnails, at least once, and Trump-related stuff also.
He's also tackled like some big general ideas, like what is hate speech and how do we actually deal with hate speech. It's pretty objective. Everyone is obviously biased to some extent, but I feel like he provides some pretty objective arguments to things.
Oh boy, I see some interesting ones as well. I'm gonna have to check this out.
Yeah, it's really well done. So if you like that sort of thing, sort of logical arguments or debate type stuff, this hits a lot of those things.
I imagine he gets demonetized a lot with the new algorithms.
He does get demonetized a lot. He's put up several videos as well, like very in-depth discussing demonetization and the process that he's gone through. I learned quite a bit about YouTube's monetization and algorithms from his videos. So, good channel.
Okay, so I'm back up with Ashens, the lover and hater of cheap tat and really crappy food and filmer of couches. He does a fair amount of blind bags, usually burning them, by the way. Cheap electronics, just Poundland, dollar store level stuff, just really variety stuff. Very funny guy, though. Not over the top. He's a very subdued personality, I think is the best way to call it. But, he's one of the more famous ones I follow. let's just put it this way. I'll look up Ashen's 1,000-year egg.
Okay. I think I've seen some stuff from Ashen's before, I believe.
Yeah, he does get some surreal stuff going every so often, but usually it's just he looks like he also did the Commodore Mini. It's 3 hours ago, so he put it up just as we started to record.
Nice.
But he's more just looking at some of the odder stuff. And he does a holiday special for most of the major holidays, Easter, Halloween, Christmas, that sort of thing. And looking at the cheap stuff in the dollar stores and some of the weird stuff people had sent him.
Nice. Maybe I'll have to check his channel out again, because
he definitely has his highs and lows. And it really depends on what you're wanting to see from him, because if you are interested in some of the weird stuff from blind bags and that sort of thing, he does that fairly often. But if you want some of his food stuff, he's doing that less and less. He actually had to close his P.O. box, and for a while I was thinking that he was secretly trying to be poisoned because he would eat some just weird stuff.
That sounds weird.
It's a weird thing, but then he's videotaping his couch as a studio. So
Best studio there is.
Yeah, and it's very stained by this point from just all the weird stuff that he's had on it.
I bet it is.
Yeah, but not the most stained couch on the internet. Okay, you're up.
Right, so my next one is a channel called Curious Droid. This is a channel where a fat Englishman who likes to wear flower and Hawaiian shirts discusses mostly the history of space and aviation. He does other things occasionally, but probably 80% of his videos are space-related or aviation-related. And it's an education-focused channel where he talks about lots of things. I remember one of his most interesting videos was about pens and pencils that were developed to be used. Well, the pens developed to be used in space by the
NASA.
By NASA.
There's
the Soviets sent up pencils.
Yeah, there's the long joke or long running joke where NASA spent billions of dollars to have a 0G pen, and the Soviets just used a pencil.
Yeah. But he actually talked about the history of that. It was like a 15 or a 20-minute video, I want to say. And there was more to it than that. But obviously, it's known as a joke, but there was some other stuff going along with it. But, I mean, he's done all kinds of videos. Occasionally, he'll do something sort of sci-fi related. But, yeah, 80% of his videos are space and aviation. Maybe another 15%.
Yeah, I thought I followed this guy, or maybe I've just seen some of his videos floating around the web. Because he looks very familiar.
Yeah. But it's a good educational channel.
It looks like he doesn't put out content too often, though. About weekly-ish.
Yeah, every week to 2 weeks he puts content out. But, I mean, his videos are long-form, educational essay-style videos.
Looking under the 10-minute mark for most of these. But the occasional, 30-minute interview.
Yeah. But
which is kind of weird to say 10 minutes long form. Considering our content.
Yeah.
10 minutes. Who's going to sit around and listen to something for 10 minutes? As I look down at the timer and see it kicking over to 2 hours, 28 minutes. Before edit, of course.
Indeed. So what's next for
you?
So
mine, we're getting away from tech and we're getting a little bit more physical with All Me, which is for the Man at Arms series. This is a channel where they take video game and anime weapons and make them in real life. It's a group of blacksmiths that do this. Probably the one that you would be most interested in. You liked now I'm blanking on the name with the giant scissor. You know what I'm talking about, but I'm blanking on the name.
Kill. They made
a kill sword out of scissors. They melted
Nice.
down just a bucket of scissors to make an ingot and forged a giant half scissor blade out of it. Their latest one is actually from PUBG with a machete. Looking at some of the more recent ones, they did the Shovel Knight shovel. They did a weapon from Warframe. A little bit further back, they have Wonder Woman's shield, because Wonder Woman actually does have a shield. And they have some series where they do movie props and cheap movie props. But mostly I watch this for their blacksmithing, because I found it interesting. I grew up watching a PBS show called The Woodwright Shop, and I'm very interested in the physical process of making stuff like this. And I realized, woodwright to metalworking, not exactly the same thing, but just watching how the process goes through it, going through the process. And they get some really, really in-depth stuff going on. I mean, this is more of an overview of how it's made and not a detailed by the numbers. This is how you make this. This is how we make this. So this isn't a tutorial. It's more of how this would be made.
This is interesting. I've seen stuff like this before, but I've never seen the full channel about this before. I remember there was a TV show about that was that was on, I think, Spike TV for a while.
Let's see. Let me see what their most popular ones are, and that'll give you a better idea.
Yeah, I'm looking at their channel right now.
Let's see. The most popular one with 11 million views is Thor's hammer, Batman Wolverine claws, a working hidden blade from Assassin's Creed, the sword from Sword Art Online, or one of the swords, the main character sword, Cloud Buster sword from Final Fantasy VII. They had to kind of cheat and make it hollow to actually make it holdable.
I'm sure it would be.
There's the
100 pounds.
Yeah, there's
or
the
more.
kill scissor blade. So it gives you an idea. Some gaming stuff. Link's Fierce Destiny sword from Majora's Mask. That one was a very interesting one. It's a double twisted blade. So if you're interested in metalworking or have a passing interest in how things are made, this is a good channel for you. The actual channel name is AWE, AWE-ME, but it's mostly Man at Arms with some other minor shows. But Man at Arms is the primary thing here.
Yeah. Yep. I sub to that channel.
I got a good track record so
Alrighty.
far.
Next for me is Door Monster. What was their channel? What did it used to be called?
No, I only really encountered them after Kyle started spamming a lot of their stuff.
Well, I've been following this channel for a long time. They used to be under a different name, which I can't remember what it is, which doesn't really matter. This is a group of young people, and when I started watching them, they were probably college age. They're roughly my age, mid-20s.
Oh, so they should get the fuck up online?
Who started out doing just like really short comedy sketches. And they still do fairly short comedy sketches, but they sort of found their stride with mostly video game related content. Making short sketches about Civilization. They've got a number of those. They have several KSP related videos, which those are hilarious. Scott Manley features in one of them. But they just do comedy sketches that are based around video games and popular TV shows. They do have one short film. They might have two short films now. Original films that are pretty good. Their strength is definitely in comedy writing versus dramatic acting. But I mean, I I subbed to the channel when there were like 10,000 or less subs on it, and they're up to almost 200,000 now. So, if you like short comedy sketches that are mostly based on video games and popular TV shows, and also Dungeons and Dragons, they've got quite a few D&D videos at this point. Then yeah, go check them out.
Okay, well, speaking of regrettable acting, the Ben Heck Show is my next one. I'm still skipping those. The Ben Heck Show is another tech-based show, or channel, I should say. And he does a few different things. One is he does teardowns of various consoles and various tech, just showing the nitty-gritty of what's actually in the box. But he also does portable versions of things, such as he took a Nintendo and made a portable Nintendo that is the size of a Nintendo cartridge, and it takes Nintendo cartridges. So it just snaps onto the cartridge, and it's a playable Nintendo. He made several portable consoles, a portable Xbox and a portable PlayStation, pretty shortly after they were released. He's also done disabled controllers, controllers designed to be played with one hand for people who have motor skill issues with either the left or right hand, and just various tech breakdowns. He also is the one that got a hold of the Nintendo PlayStation, and no, I'm not screwing up there, and actually restored it to working order.
Fascinating.
I can't tell if
I don't know if I want.
I can't tell if you're serious on that one.
I don't know if I want to sub to this channel or not, because it's not exactly the type of tech
it's a little
stuff
bit.
that
It's
I
a little
like.
bit more technical. It's a little bit more technical. But it also shows you some of the behind the scenes stuff on how things actually run.
Yeah. I'll probably watch a few videos on this channel before I decide whether or not I want to sub
but
to
he
it.
also, I'm just looking at some of his stuff. I got a hold of a Game Boy printer and reverse engineered how it actually functioned. If you're old enough to remember the Game Boy printer, the Game Boy had a printer, by the way.
I do. I remember that.
He figured out how it worked and got it working with a computer. He built a portable Virtual Boy. Just for reasons, right?
Nice. Sometimes those are the best reasons to do things. Just reasons.
And their opening is regrettable acting, which, it kind of ties into Door Monster. Because they do a little bit of sketches every so often, but not too bad. Just look at their as most popular stuff. His most popular thing is the teardown of the PlayStation 4 pretty much immediately after it released, just to show what was under the hood. And also to alleviate some fears, because, particularly whenever he did it on the Xbox side of things, to show maybe they have fixed their problems. Because he commented quite a bit on the Xbox's improved heatsink and cooling systems.
Interesting. I don't know. I'll have to watch a few videos on that channel before I decide whether or not I want to subscribe to it. But it's got a chance to hook me. All right, the next one on my list is FilmJoy. FilmJoy is as you would imagine, a channel that revolves around movies. They do reviews, they do sort of deep discussions about movie concepts and stuff, but honestly the main reason to sub to this channel is their Movies with Mikey series. Mike is the sort of lead on the channel, and he actually is an ex-Gearbox developer. He left there sometime last year, but the whole idea of FilmJoy is most film critics go real ham. Most critics do on the negatives of most things.
I don't know what you're talking about.
And their tagline is love movies again. So a lot of the in-depth analysis they do on stuff, even if it's on bad films, is they try and point out the positives And the Movies with Mikey series either tackles a concept or a specific film. And the editing and the style of that show is amazing. It's not quite like crazy, silly all over the place, but there's just enough like silliness in it to break up the seriousness, because he gets real deep and emotional with a lot of movies, and definitely speaks from the heart. And that is I found this channel like 2 months ago, and I have devoured like 100 plus videos. And most of the Movies with Mikey episodes are 15 to 20 minutes long. There's a few that are a little bit longer and a few that are a little bit shorter, but your average is, 15 to 20 minutes. He's got a really interesting multi-part series that he did about Star Wars as well, which it was 2 parts or maybe 3 parts. It was How We See Star Wars, and it came out after The Last Jedi, and there was like huge amounts of we hate everything and you and everybody, and he was like, let's actually take a look at Star Wars and see how things were like back when it first released and how Star Wars has shaped the popular culture. It was really interesting. Some of the big concepts that he tackles as well get really out there in the weeds on movie stuff, which, as I've mentioned a number of times, as an amateur cinemaphile, I really like that stuff. So if you like movies as much as I do, check out Film Joy, particularly for the Movies with Mikey series that they have.
Okay, so I'm up once again, and just happens to be another tech show. It's sorting mine by alphabetical order. It's kind of aligned some of these by category inadvertently. Next up is BigClive.com, and that is a YouTube channel, by the way, where he takes apart things and shows how they work, and sometimes shows why things may be dangerous. How, for example, a USB charger could kill you because they inadvertently grounded it improperly. It's not full tutorial, but it gives a more of an idea of how electronics work just in general. And not really a lot to talk about here, just because he shows a lot of various things, from just random electronics to more chemical-based stuff, like how a Zippo brand pocket warmer will work, to some very basic tutorials. And it's an interesting thing just to sit down and watch him tear something apart.
This is the first one you've had that I'm like, I'm not really interested in that. I mean, I can see where that stuff is fascinating. Like, I'm not like thrown off on him. Just that sort of thing doesn't usually interest me.
Well, I was, like I said, I was interested in how electronics work, and this is close to a tutorial, but not quite. I mean, he does diagrams on how the electronics work, but he doesn't go full out on, okay, this does this, which does this.
Right.
But yeah, I just find it fascinating. It's not something that I sit and watch every single one of his videos, but sometimes there's some interesting stuff.
Right. Well, my next channel, Eckhart's Ladder. Eckhart's Ladder started out as pretty much a pure Star Wars channel, where that he did combination of diving into Star Wars lore and things like that, like explaining stuff and pulling out like weird things that have happened in the really old comic books and stuff like that. And then it's kind of evolved into this channel where that, for the most part, he does those comparisons that you're always like, who would win in a fight between Captain Kirk and Han Solo? And he's always like, these are really subjective. Yes, we would. He's always like, these are really subjective, just based on my opinions and my feelings. But he does Star Wars, Star Trek, Halo, Warhammer. Pretty much any sci-fi series is fair game. And he still does some of that lore stuff as well.
I've seen some very interesting arguments between the Enterprise fighting a Star Destroyer, just because shields and how shields work.
Yeah. How shields work in both universes.
Which gives it a heavy advantage to the Star Trek universe.
Yeah. Everyone, though, always loses to 40K.
Well, Of course, the universe has gone to shit, so you have to be badass.
Yeah. Particularly whenever he does like ground troop comparisons, he's always like, you guys always request 40K, but they always win by a mile because they're, especially when you get into the Space Marines, they're not even really human. They look like humans, but they're not really.
I mean, they're sort of human at one point.
Yep, before they get like extra organs and
what's it? Doesn't a Space Marine have something like over 20 steps of implants?
Yeah. They get an entire second set of organs. They have backup organs for everything except their brain, and they have to do those steps.
I'm sure if
and then
they could
further
give a backup
genetically
brain,
augmented.
Right?
Yeah. But yeah, 40K almost always wins.
Unless there has to be any sort of fine agility, you know?
Yeah.
And even then, right?
But he's done some other weird ones too. Like one of his most popular videos is the entire United States military versus one Star Destroyer.
Well, I see it interesting here. Liberty Prime versus the Iron Giant.
Yeah, that was a fun episode too. But yeah, he does lots of stuff like that, and it's all just fun.
All right, well, I'm up again, and one of my cooking channels is up. Actually, I have one that's technically cooking, but I don't watch it for the cooking. But this one is called Binging with Babish. Yeah, and you may be more interested in this one than the other ones because he also does movie-themed episodes where he takes food from a movie and tries to recreate it. His latest video is actually trying to recreate the state from The Matrix.
Oh, I see that.
But he does movie-themed episodes where he tries to do various foods from a particular movie or movie franchise. He also has tutorials for general cooking and more specialized stuff, such as bar essentials and that sort of thing. And it's a very interesting subset of the cooking channel where it's more focused on a idea of how things are done in a movie. So a little bit more interesting to you than you probably imagined, huh?
Maybe, but I don't really care all that much for cooking channels.
Well, oh well. It's more how he's presenting it. You know, looking at a movie as a theme for a set of recipes or a set of ideas. And if you're not great at cooking, he has a pretty good set of tutorials for very basic stuff to allow you to dive into some of the more advanced stuff. Granted, the tutorials haven't really helped me because I've done most of this, but yeah, it's nice to brush up and watch some of this. And then he goes crazy on some of this stuff, like just a massive taco for some reason. Game of Thrones food, which is just obscene. Trying to remember what episode it was, but he did a bunch of 1950s gourmet stuff, which is pretty much just all butter. Or a lot of pastry, a lot of butter, a lot of fat. You know, no caring for nutrition whatsoever.
Which, if we're fair, or if we're honest, that's the most delicious way to cook.
I mean, who needs old age, right?
Yeah.
He took Homer Simpson's moon waffles and actually made them edible. Which the moon waffle from The Simpsons was essentially pre-made waffle batter, a handful of caramels, and throw it in a waffle iron.
Sounds pretty good.
Well, he destroyed his waffle iron trying to make it from The Simpsons. Literally destroyed it. He couldn't get it off it. He had to buy a new waffle iron.
I can imagine that caramel would stick on.
Yeah. But yeah, it's an interesting subset, like I said.
Yep, I've never been a big fan of watching anything cooking related.
Like I said, I've got a very small grocery store near me. So once you get past very basic stuff, it starts to get harder and harder to make more mid-range, high-end food. So this is the best way I could experience it. and plus,
Yeah.
once again, find it interesting.
Yeah, the only cooking channel, well, I air quotes cooking channel that I like is You Suck at Cooking, and that's more of a comedy channel.
Well, I may sell you on one of these later on.
Maybe so. But my next channel is, and I do apologize for pronouncing this word wrong because there's no way I'm going to pronounce it right, is Kurzgesagt,
Gesundheit.
which is German for in a nutshell or in summary. And this is an educational channel that tackles really, really big ideas most of the time. Like, a couple of my favorite episodes that they've done are exploring nuclear power and the pros and cons of nuclear power and tackling both sides of the argument for and against it. But they've also done videos on the Fermi paradox, string theory, curing
Is
cancer.
Is that a Nazi dolphin?
Where?
The ultimate conspiracy debunker 3 years ago?
Yes, I think so.
Not just a Nazi dolphin, but Adolf Hitler Nazi dolphin.
But the show is really, really well produced. They do one episode a month most of the time, and their motto is quality is greater than quantity. And it really shows. Their videos are awesome.
I'll have to check them out.
Yeah. And they've got a lot of topics they've tackled over the years.
All right, well, I got another cooking channel, but this one's going to be a very quick one because this is more standard. It's Food Wishes. But this also has some more experimental stuff every so often, where he takes various foods and for some recipes tries to simplify them or tries to put a twist on them. Like cheese soufflés, he tried to simplify the recipe to make it a little bit more consistent and a little bit easier to get into. But mostly just some comfort food, some more ethnic foods, some just odd things, like he tried to do an asparagus patty for some reason, but just general cooking. And I realize that you don't care for this, but oh well. He has a interesting personality, and well, you would like this. He always has some sort of rhyming pun in his episode. And now I'm completely blanking on any of them.
That's okay.
But he has some interesting foods on here as well. And that's the thing that I like about tube cooking channels, is that it's a lot easier to figure out the recipe by looking at it than it is just reading it. Because he talks about it quite a bit whenever he's trying to explain something that's a lot more visual than some of the other things that he does. And he's like, if you were trying to read this from a recipe, this would be a lot tougher to see right now, but you're looking for this color or this consistency. And that's what I really appreciate in the cooking channel. It's more
nice,
instructional than anything else. So you're up.
My next channel is Modern Classic. This is a middle-aged dude who started a YouTube channel to just talk about some of his old tech that he likes to collect and work on. And it's become more of a variety tech channel. He does a few gaming things, some modern, some classic. He talks about classic hardware other than just like computers. Like he's had a whole episode on old school audio setups and like Super Audio CD, which I had never heard of before. He's done videos where he restores computers or keyboards. His most recent video is taking a look at an old Palm Pilot tablet thing, which I haven't watched.
This sounds a bit like the 8-bit guy.
Yeah, kind of. He doesn't really have a release schedule because this is purely a hobby for him. He tends to release 1 to 2 videos a month. But he's done some really interesting stuff, and he's got a really good voice. Just a very listenable voice.
We could use that.
So I tried to get him to come on the podcast once, but that was some time ago, and obviously it didn't work out.
Well,
but he's a real nice guy to talk to.
I completely forgot about it. Maybe he was on the podcast. All
Maybe he was. But no, he's a really nice guy to talk to. Just a, down to earth guy.
Okay, so I'm up. Okay, so next up for me is Grand Illusions. I have two really odd channels coming up, by the way. Grand Illusions is an old guy who's been collecting toys and oddities for most of his life, and this is him showing off his collection. Usually some sort of theme or some sort of new thing that he's picked up, but this is just an old man playing with odd toys and odd little novelties. Sometimes he'll show off his various puzzles that he's picked up. A theme of what was the various nose themed toys that he's picked up. Different stuffed animals. Different greeting cards was one. Different cars. All sorts of odd and wonderful things, and it's just I kind of wish he was my grandfather.
The internet is a strange place. Like, on the one hand, this is kind of weird, but on the other hand, this is really fascinating.
I mean, he has all sorts of odd things that he's collected over the years. And sometimes he has more interesting things than others. I will admit that. But, yeah. Just look at those thumbnails. All the thumbnails are all just captures from his various videos.
I know, but some of them are so cool. Some of them are kind of lame, but some of them are really cool. Neat. I'll have to check this out. This is a good one. Just one of the weird things you can find on the interwebs.
Oh no, weird is coming up next.
So next on my list is Movie Bob. Movie Bob is a guy who does a lot of different things. He is a movie reviewer. That's where I initially found him, was from his film reviews. But he also has a number of series where he talks about video games and popular culture and movie history. My favorite series that he does is called Really That Good, where he takes something from popular culture from, anywhere in time. He's gone all the way back to the 70s or the 80s for some of the older stuff, but he's also done new stuff. And it's like, most of those videos average 45 minutes to an hour, and it's a video essay where he breaks down a movie and how we view it in, from our period in time, and then historically what it was like when it came out and how people felt about it at that time, and its implications going forward for film, and how that affected maybe the way that films were shot or marketed or things like that. And the longest one that he's ever done was on Batman versus Superman, and it was 3 parts, and I think it totaled like 3 hours. So he's got some really long form content, like genuinely long form content. I will say that he wears his bias pretty much on his shirt sleeve. He's a bleeding heart liberal, which is fine by me. But if you don't like that sort of thing, a lot of his content will probably be pretty difficult for you to parse. Really That Good tries to remain as unbiased as possible. And then another series he does, In Bob We Trust, where he talks about more modern pop culture stuff. Some of that is relatively unbiased. The stuff that he does for like October, where he just he calls it Schlocktober, and he just talks about B movies, different B movies, horror and stuff like that. That's pretty unbiased, but just about everything else does have a left-leaning slant that's pretty obvious. So if you don't like that stuff, that might not be for you. But otherwise, particularly the Really really that good series is spot on. And then I like the rest of his content too, because I just like really in-depth thought pieces about stuff. His most recent video is the start of a short series about The Simpsons. Sort of picking apart.
Oh, sorry, I was clearing my throat.
30 some odd years of The Simpsons. So, if you're a big Simpsons fan, that might be good.
I've seen some interesting breakdowns of The Simpsons, particularly talking about when The Simpsons started to start making fun of pop culture and be pop culture.
Yeah.
But up next is the weirdest one on my list. Jelly's Marble Runs. This is a combination of a couple of different things. One, various marble machines and just watching them run. But then he does races, played completely straight as a sports commentary or a sporting event. And just having the marbles run down various tracks. It sounds completely off the wall, but it's one of those things that it actually works, you know? And then he does both a summer and winter Olympics with various themed events. Things like curling, bobsledding. The Summer Olympics had actually a high dive event. Once again, played completely straight. I think your kid would absolutely love this.
Well, he and I watch like Marble Run channels.
Well, this is one of them.
Ones that do stuff like that with Hot Wheels cars and stuff.
Well, let's put it this way: there was some sort of storyline that he had to make up because during one of the events, a marble broke, and during the closing ceremonies, the broken marble was sitting there with a little crutch, propping it up.
That's amazing.
And he plays it like an actual sporting event. So all the teams have their own personalities and their own rivalries against one another. And he talks a little bit about their history. The Winter Olympics is being hosted by Team Snowballs. and talking about how the teams may be performing poorly due to altitude sickness because they're from a different area. It's fascinating. Once again, played completely straight. Not like a giant joke.
I love stuff like that. Stuff that's very clearly a joke but played straight. I love
matter of fact,
stuff.
he had to change the Marble Olympics logo because he was getting in trouble by the Olympic Committee because they were going after everybody that was using the Olympic symbols. Kind of ironic when you think about the symbolism of the Olympic rings, huh?
Yeah.
But he also does some basic stop motion animation for the particularly the Marble Olympics, where the opening ceremony has all the marbles slowly going down the walkway, and all the events has this giant stadium full of marbles.
I like this. I like this a lot. It's different.
Yeah, like I said, the weirdest thing on my list by far. But yeah. You could see the Summer Olympics about 8 months ago. The Winter Olympics are still ongoing. He had something going on with the last event, and he never finished. He's been talking about doing the last one. But, I would say just put the first event of the Marble Winter Olympics on and watch, or even the qualifying events, because he did full qualifying events as well, and eliminated actually several teams. And nice. Actually has enough of a following that the comments have the fans cheering for the various teams.
That's adorable.
Oh, and
that's adorable.
The team that actually had the injury last year in the Winter Olympics, they were having trouble this year, so he combined Team Momo and Team Primary to make Team Momary. And just watching the comments go crazy about that is just hilarious. once again, play completely straight, like the marbles are alive, or an actual athletes.
Yeah.
So you're up.
Right. My next channel is OZ Talks Hardware. This is a guy who does various PC hardware reviews and builds, and he tends to focus on budget stuff. He sets himself budget. Lots of his videos, or he'll give himself a budget, like a ridiculously low budget. I
subscribed to this guy, but I guess I didn't because or yeah.
And he'll see what he can.
Oh, sorry, I was
sorry. Go ahead.
I was like, wait, I thought I subscribed to this guy, so why wasn't he on my subscription list? Did YouTube screw up again? Because YouTube has had that thing pop up where it's unsubscribed to some people.
But he'll set himself like a ridiculously low budget of like $20. And can I get put together a PC for $20? And one time he made one, but he didn't have any money to spend on a case, so he made a case out of cardboard and duct tape. It was glorious. But he does do straight up reviews of stuff sometimes as well. And he had a little mini series going on for a little bit where he was buying, like, on purpose, getting scam graphics cards and seeing actually what they were, like taking them apart and seeing what cards they actually were. And that was pretty interesting.
I watched a couple of those. I remember that.
And as he's moved forward and has gotten better at editing his videos, because his channel is only about a year and a half old, he has started doing this weird thing where he will have himself edited in multiple times doing stuff screen that I think is pretty comical. Like, he'll be in the background like dancing or something while he's actually doing the review, or he'll have himself like Vanna White style, like showing off things while he's talking. It's cute. But yeah, I really like his channel. I like the way he presents things. It's fun. I actually picked up quite a few tips from him on building PCs whenever I was trying to start doing things a little bit more custom rather than just, building a machine, but actually going in and looking at overclocking and all of that jazz. He's got some good stuff talking about that too. So honestly, some of the favorite things that I like to see him do though are those budget builds. And like, what can I put together for $30? What can it run? How well will it run it? It's good.
Okay, well, I'm up next with actually I'm pretty sure this is the only music channel I got. Jonathan Young. He does a lot of covers of anime, gaming, and actually Disney stuff. Some of my favorite stuff is this Disney villain songs. Sometimes changing the genre, so he'll have a metal version of. I'm on his most popular stuff. But
isn't it the Chip and Dale?
Yeah, he did Chip and Dale.
Is that metal?
I'm pretty sure he did that pretty much straight up, just more rock than anything else. But he did a metal version of Phantom of the Opera, which I realize is not what I said before, but he does a cover. He's a cover artist. A metal version of Poor Unfortunate Souls from Disney's Little Mermaid is just awesome. Just a lot of cover songs, a lot of interesting takes on popular stuff. Definitely a one to check out if you want to see something a bit different or listen to something a bit different. And pretty much anytime he has his villain suit on, it's a good time.
Awesome. Do you want to know what's a real good time?
What?
My next channel, Sexplanations.
Oh boy, here we go.
So this is a YouTube channel dedicated completely to talking about sex in pretty much every way possible. The lady that does the channel is a sex therapist, and she approaches sex from a very sex positive standpoint. And it's a good place to openly go and chat with people, not in the YouTube comments, go to her website, but to find people to chat with and to learn about all kinds of sex stuff that maybe you're embarrassed to talk about. And she helps break down those walls. Her videos are a lot of times pretty fun and provocative on purpose. Like one of her thumbnails for one of her really recent videos, she's wearing a strap on. So there's some silliness to it, but she tackles a lot of really interesting, fun topics.
Well, but the YouTube algorithms hate her.
Yeah, I'm sure they do. But she does have this weird... She has crazy eyes. Like, I don't know if it's just because she's recording, but go watch any of her videos, and her eyes are, like, wide, like she's surprised all the time.
Maybe she should switch
That's a little
to
bit
decaf.
weird. She probably should. But if you're curious about sex stuff and you're too embarrassed to go ask somebody, Sexplanations has probably covered it.
Well, should we move along?
Yeah, I don't really have much else to say about it.
Oh, I'm sure you do, but let's move along anyway.
Well, yeah.
Larry Bundy Jr. is my next one. He does a couple of things. One, he does some more documentary stuff, but most of what he does is top 5 odd lists. Like one of his more recent ones is top 5 angry programmers who hated their own games, and he goes into the actual code of the game and talks about the rants that these programmers left as programming notes or odd origins from various video game publishers, or 5 times Peter Molyneux was an asshole. You instantly subscribed. What put you over the edge?
All of it. I mean, like most people, I love list videos.
Yeah, but these are actually interesting
particularly
ones.
like weird lists. Like, yeah, interesting.
But then
lists.
he has different things, like talking about why joysticks are always on the left and the history behind that. He doesn't put out videos often. He's slowed down recently, but he's still pretty active overall. And it's just an odd assortment of list videos. Sometimes provocative, sometimes silly, sometimes informative, but usually pretty interesting. And look at it this way: it's something for you to binge, right?
Absolutely, I love having channels to binge. All right, next on my list is Space Doc, and Space Doc is a channel that goes over history, or lore, or stats, or specs of various sci-fi craft. Mostly spacecraft, but you get some mechs and robots and things in there every once in a while. That's like 95% of the channel. The rest of the videos are talking about concepts like space combat and how it works in different series and how would it most likely work in real life. There's a couple other random things in there, but like 95% of it is talking about a ship or a group of ships from a sci-fi series. And they've done stuff from Star Wars, Star Trek, Warhammer, Battlestar, Pacific Rim, Babylon 5, Cowboy Bebop, Fallout. These are just the ones I can think of. I'm sure there's plenty other ones in there that I'm not thinking, not remembering. But it's a fun little channel for stuff like that.
Yeah, interesting little thing. I'm going through their list and looking at some of the different ships. Some very niche stuff as well. I mean, it's not just the ones that you may be thinking of. He actually goes into Wing Commander. Wow. There's a series that I wish would come back.
Yeah. I like
Wing Commander. It's been ages since I really thought about Wing Commander. and that makes me sad. So, how about something happier instead? Well, most of the time.
Go for it.
LGR, Lazy Game Review. Once again, gaming related. Tried to avoid too many of my gaming things, but LGR definitely deserves a look. Mostly retro with some retro tech as well. He also does a lot of sim stuff, reviewing the 20,000 expansion packs for The Sims just because it became a meme for him. mostly just talking about the games that he grew up with and loved, various tech. He does a thrifting series as well, which he goes to various thrift shops near where he lives and shows off some of the weird shit that he sees and some of the weird shit that he buys.
Yeah, I think this was the only one that we both subscribed to.
Yeah, but you didn't put on your list.
One of the only ones? Because I knew you were going to. That's why I didn't put it on my list. My favorite LGR series is the Oddware series.
The Oddware series is also very good, where he just looks at things that are weird, wonderful, and obsolete. But yeah, it's just a very kind of informative, but also silly. And he also does an amazing Duke Nukem impersonation.
He does do a really good Duke Nukem impersonation.
It's like he channels John St. John himself.
Perhaps. Well, in a similar vein to LGR and many of these other tech channels that we've discussed, Technology Connections. Technology Connections is a very educational tech channel that picks a topic and will spend 15, 20, 30 minutes, 90 minutes really going in depth about that specific tech thing. For example, this channel recently did a 4-part video series on Laserdisc from inception to death. He also did a multi-part series on the format wars between VHS and Betamax. He has said he's going to be doing one between DVD and Blu-ray. While technically DVDs are still around, Blu-ray won the next format war in that respect. But he's also done a video talking about old school rotary phones, and one in particular, like the most quote-unquote iconic one. He has a 7 or an 8-part video series talking about TVs and the history of TV and how it worked. And I discovered that there was a rotary TV. That was crazy.
Yeah, there was... trying to remember where I saw it, but there was also one that was... I can't remember how to explain it. Maybe the one that you're talking about. Where it was an actual physical thing it was sending? Or it was some sort of physical manipulation?
Yeah, with the rotary TV, there was the sender or the whatever. They had to match up.
Yeah, I think it is.
And so and so you would have 2 TVs with like these giant discs inside,
perfectly synced,
spinning it. Yeah, perfectly synced.
Yeah, it didn't last long.
No. But it was crazy. Like, I'd never heard of a mechanical TV before.
Yeah, okay.
But it's a mechanical TV with a disc.
Yeah, that's
that
why I was
spins.
thrown off, because you were calling it rotary, but I heard it mechanical. So,
right. Yeah, it should have been mechanical, but I was thinking rotary phone, and then I said rotary TV.
Yeah, that's why I was like, oh, I heard about something else. It just happens to be the exact same thing.
But it's just like really in-depth educational stuff about technology and its evolution. I did discover on this channel that there exists genuine, like, 1080p high-definition footage of New York City from the mid-90s using a special type of VHS tape that could record film at that level. And it was unplayable to most devices until, like, the mid-2000s. But it exists. It's really weird to see. Because, you think of,
yeah,
at least in my mind, the way that decades look are how I've seen their videos of them in, history and classrooms and stuff. So to me, the 90s is like fuzzy, even though like I grew up.
Don't worry, the 90s are fuzzy to me.
Thinking back
as well.
on it, everything's fuzzy. But it's really weird to see. Just clear as day.
What's really impressive is around the 50s, they invented color.
I know, right? How could people live in a black and white world before?
Well, it's all just shades of gray.
But anyways, I love this channel. If you really want to get off in the weeds about Laserdisc and stuff, this is the place to go.
Well, next one is probably the least surprising channel considering our history. So, hello, I'm Scott Manley. The worst impersonation of it ever, but he's used to be a Kerbal Space Program YouTuber and has evolved into more general science and general explanations of rocketry. Still uses some Kerbal as explanation and some Kerbal gameplay, but it's more general stuff now with some other science-based games peppered here and there. Not really a lot of talk about here just because of the history of our podcast. I think everybody knows Scott Manley.
Probably so. The next channel on my list is the Cosmonaut Variety Hour. And this is a variety channel that talks about...
you don't skip the...
Nope, I don't skip the... That talks about different things. He does movie reviews, video game reviews, sort of essay-style videos talking about different things in popular culture, like comic books, or the Marvel Cinematic Universe, or the DC Cinematic Universe. He's done a few things on anime. Just kind of all over the place. He's got a really fun, quippy, snarky presentation style, though, which endears him to me.
Okay, well, I'm up with another cooking channel. Is it any a shock that I'm fat? But I actually don't know how to pronounce this because she never says the actual channel name. Rangishi? It's this adorable Vietnamese woman who does some Asian cooking, some Asian flavored American cooking. But she's just adorable, and she talks about some stories as well while she shows how to make different things. And also talks about various shopping techniques for Asian cuisine. But she's just adorable. That's why I watch her.
She looks like a doll.
That's hardly kind of you.
No, she looks like a doll, like a China doll.
I told you she's Vietnamese.
Which taken out of context could sound really racist, but what I mean. Meng Chi, I think is how you say that. Meng Chi. Not 100%, but I think.
And looks like maybe I've called a couple of these because I only have one extra, I think.
Sweet. Well, next on my list is the channel's called Your Movie Friend. This is the smallest channel I have up here, which is really sad because he's got some really good, thoughtful, interesting content. Talks about movies, obviously, Your Movie Friend. And my favorite series, or my favorite part of his channel, is his review series, which is 5 things about whatever movie. And instead of going through the whole movie and reviewing everything like a traditional critic, he gives a very brief thought overview or summary of what he felt about the movie, and then he points out 5 things that you probably want to know going into the movie. And sometimes they're positive, sometimes they're negative, or sometimes they're things that depending on how you feel, you might take it either way, but they're significant. And he doesn't spoil movies, but
also he's not a trailer.
He will. No. But I really like the way that he puts that series together. It's a really different take on movie reviews. And of course, because he's different and interesting, his channel is tiny.
Yeah, how dare an interesting channel actually have a good following?
That's not fair, though. There's lots of interesting channels I've pointed out today that have big followings. He just hasn't. And I don't quite understand why. Because he's actually personal friends with this CinemaSins guy, and he's been on their podcast multiple times. But his channel is still fairly small. But still, if you like movies, or if you want to go try and find some interesting, different movie reviews for something you want to go see, go check out his channel.
Sorry about that. More noises to edit out. So I'm up next with Tech Moan. another general tech show, or channel, I should say. This one, it has a little bit of a slant towards audio equipment, but also just general tech, in general. A little bit of taking apart and showing how it works, but more just interesting things that he finds and buys on eBay, and showing off how they work and the various tech, and occasionally a little bit of an odd skit at the end with puppets.
All right.
But he has a big thing for record players, actually. So he has quite a few videos just detailing various record players and how they work, how to repair some of them, because he had to take them apart to fix them. What to look for, what not to look for. He's reviewed a pasta maker. He's done a couple different alarm clocks. Talked about why there's a severe lack of portable digital TVs since the switch over from analog signals to digital, and actually showed why you don't see many of them. Just the pure losing signal, even for a moment, completely cuts out the screen. And he went around London showing, even right under a transmitter, he was having trouble.
Some of the stuff looks interesting. I'm not
it's not
super interested in
full channel that I watch all the time, but it's one to sit down and binge certain things. And then he does some educational toys as well, or educational products. He has it's a CRT globe. Actually, there it is. What the heck is the Gekken World Eye? It's a CRT half globe, which is just an oddity. So,
indeed, that does sound odd.
But yeah, fun little channel.
Cool. Well, my last channel, which is the only one that's not in alphabetical order, because I guess I forgot to put it in alphabetical order.
Well, it didn't stop you before.
Internet Comment Etiquette. This is a pretty much purely comedy-based channel where the shtick is that he is gonna teach you how to leave proper comments on YouTube videos and other videos and in Facebook and stuff around a certain topic. And he'll pick a topic for the episode, and then he'll search out some YouTube videos or Facebook stuff or whatever and be like, all right, let me teach you how to leave a proper respectful comment. And then it'll just be like some garbage bullshit conspiracy sounding comment. And he drinks a lot. And he has like recurring characters or themes, like where he like drops into like conspiracy, like Lizard Man levels of character, and he'll like just start talking. It's like, I'm talking to you, Brian. Everyone else thinks I'm just leaving a comment, but I'm talking to you. You think that the globalists are taking over, and you would be thinking correctly. If you just send all of your money to this address, we can get you hooked up so the globalists won't get you. And like stuff like that. It's really funny. And he makes fun of like flat earthers and Trump supporters and Ted Cruz.
Those are two different things?
Yeah, fair play. And then he's got like some also weird instructional videos, which are also all comedy. But it's good. It's really funny. There's a lot of swearing, a lot of snarkiness. He has made one or two short sort of art house style films that he's put up on the channel. One of them is Eric drinks wine and gets a haircut.
Hopefully not at the same time.
Silly and stupid. I think it was at the same time. But occasionally you learn something, but 99% of the time it's just bullshit and making fun of things. He's done a few collabs. He did one with Boogie, and he did one with can't think of his name. Damn it. Not Matt Pat. An angry guy.
Joe?
Fuck it. It doesn't matter. No, not Angry Joe.
Well, I didn't do one with them, and that's the only two angry things I could think of. Or angry YouTubers.
Yeah, maybe it's not angry. Maddox. I was thinking of Mad, like angry mad, but Maddox.
Ah. I haven't thought of him in a while.
But that... Me neither. I kind of forgot he existed until he showed up in an internet comment etiquette video. But apparently Maddox has still got a pretty big ongoing channel, so good for him.
So, that's a thing.
Yeah.
Oh, so I have 2 remaining, and both of them start with T's. First up is Tom Scott. I'm not sure how to categorize this, because this is more of a general channel. Sometimes it's science, sometimes it's history, sometimes it's just odd things. Like, he made the International Standard Cup of Tea. Talking essentially how tea is tested. He talks about how YouTube builds their URLs. So you'll have billions and billions of possible URLs in a very tiny package. Whenever something big happens, like on Christmas Day, what was it, 2 years ago? Steam was having that issue where other people's profile pages were showing up at random. Do you remember that?
Yeah, that was the first time I actually found
Yeah,
Tom
he did
Scott.
a video explaining, first of all, what was happening, how it happened, and why it's probably not that big a deal. He explained why a video of confetti looks like absolute shit. He goes to various interesting places to show off just odd things, like a beer pipeline, for one. Another one talking about why a lot of alien planets and sci-fi movies look very similar with the 10 Mile Zone, the TMZ. And it's just a general interesting channel to me. Sometimes it's more interesting than others. Sometimes I skip a video here or there. But I usually watch most of his stuff.
Yeah, I've never actually subscribed to his channel, despite the fact that I've watched a lot of his videos.
He has a video about early earthquake research where they dropped a several ton steel ball and just measured the impact, and also used that to find oil in another place. Talked about London having a airport that lacks an air traffic control tower, and how that works. Why European clocks are running slow and British clocks are running right on time. All sorts of odd and interesting things. A video showing, I can't show you how pink this pink is. And why he can't show you how pink it is. So yeah, interesting little thing. I'm surprised you didn't subscribe to him.
Yeah, I don't know why I never have. Like, I mean, I've watched tons of his videos. I don't know if I've seen them all. I probably haven't, but I have seen a lot of them.
Yet you don't subscribe. Shame.
And yet I don't.
But now you do.
So what's the last one?
Okay,
you
my
got?
last one is technically a cooking channel, but I'm not watching it for the cooking. It's it's Townsend's, but it's John Townsend and Son. This is 18th century cooking and talking about the history of various meals and how cooking worked back then. And also some more general history depending on the video. And I just found it really fascinating how very basic things, for one, sometimes was around, just in a different form, or talking about how vague recipes used to be, where it was cooking, recipes were not instructions, but more general ideas, or expected the reader to know quite a bit of cooking already. It was more just nudging in a different direction. Some reenactment stuff showing the Revolutionary War and the War of 1812 mostly. And just a general history more than the actual cooking, with more cooking being a backdrop for various topics. And occasionally he accidentally stumbles into a political thing, like shortly after the election he was at Mount Vernon, and one of the recipes that the Washingtons loved was this sherbet drink called the Orange Fool.
Yeah, I remember you told me about this,
Yeah.
I think, last week.
Yeah, you were wondering what this channel was. And he does Q&A where people write in and ask generally about cooking, but more general stuff as well. You know, one of the videos is like how food was preserved and various canning process, how winter was survived back then. Just very fascinating.
Indeed.
Yeah,
that's
that
all
was
of them,
my last
right?
one.
Well, we did it.
Hey, we're only now half an hour over our usual time.
Sweet. I have more, but this was sort of my A
Yeah,
list.
this was. Well, I skipped some of the more controversial stuff, some of the stuff that people are, angry with, or I watched just bits of. I skipped the stuff that I use in the podcast notes a lot of times. I said Alpha, Young Yab, particularly. I didn't put Jim Sterling in, same reason. Some of the more new stuff. I went for more cooking, a little bit of history, and general tech for the most part.
Yep, I mostly went tech, film, and educational. A couple of fun sci-fi things in there, and then a couple of
I had a
comedies,
couple
but...
odd things, but and I guess we're going to be skipping the discovery view.
Yeah, I think so. So that means we come to the portion of the podcast where I go first and tell you what's coming up on my channel on the YouTubes. Gaming Psychologist.
Ding.
We have Divinity coming out Wednesdays and Saturdays until either we finish or we get behind again. Looking pretty good at the moment for not getting behind, but you never know. There is another batch of Kerbal videos in the works. We should be breaking into the 50s this week. And outside of that, I've got, again, one of my patented ideas rolling around in my head that I typically don't do.
So that's what that sound is.
We'll see if that turns into something. Because I have played a couple of mobile games that actually are real games first and then mobile second. And I'm considering doing I don't know. I like what's the right word? Alliterative? Mm-hmm. Alliteration in my titles. So something like Mobile Monthly, where I actually look at a mobile game. I don't think I could do one every week. There's too much garbage to sort through on mobile. But I figure I could do one a month. But I've got an idea for a couple. The question is, how easy or difficult is it to capture footage from a mobile device? I've never done that before, so...
The power of emulation?
Perhaps. I know that there's ways to emulate modern mobile titles on a PC, but I don't know how difficult that is either. Never done it before. So there's going to be a learning curve to this.
And a lot of cursing, and then you give up on do no content.
Indeed. Otherwise, that's about it for now on my YouTube channel, which, like I said before, Gaming Psychologist. If you wanna follow me over on Twitter at JMA4707, if you don't already, I tweet about all kinds of things. It took 4 days, but my phone stopped exploding from members of the LGBT community talking to me about transgender actors and actresses.
So now you wanted to get a vibrate again because you got kind of used to it and you kind of like it.
Oh yeah, I liked it. But no, so that's calmed back down. I've been tweeting. I haven't been tweeting very much actually the last few days. I haven't posted any inflammatory political tweets. I've been keeping a lot of that to myself.
Oh, don't worry. I'll poke you every so often. I'll get you tweeting again.
Most of my tweeting has been responding to people about things. Some of the podcasts that I listen to, been tweeting back and forth with them a lot. But that's more of just, random Twitter conversations as opposed to me posting stuff. But I'm always on there. You never know what you're gonna find on my Twitter. If you want to watch me stream games on Twitch sometimes, or watch the premieres I put up there, like the podcast, which the previous week's episode premieres on Twitch the following week while we're recording the next episode. So we're on Twitch right now, both in the sense that last week's episode is running on Twitch right now, and this week's episode is going to be running on Twitch right now.
Yeah, but I have a feeling
next
last week's episode is probably finished by now.
What time did it? I don't remember what time it started. Whatever, doesn't matter. We're there, using the Twitch Premiere features, which a lot of people don't like, but I actually like the Twitch Premiere features, because I have a difficult time finding time to stream, because I do stuff during the day, so I can't stream during the day.
That's prime time for it.
Yep. And then in the evenings, a lot of times, we're doing something, either recording, or I play Star Wars RPG on Wednesday nights with some of the people from our community. And then Fridays and Saturdays, I never know what's going on the weekend, so I can't plan to do anything there. So the Premiere system is really nice, and I like it quite a bit. Anyways, that's twitch.tv/jarthur4707, and if you want to be my friend on Steam, where I accept all friend requests and love to have lovely chats with the lovely people from our community, you can send me a friend request. My Steam username is jarthur4707.
And if you wish to let them know exactly what episode of the podcast you're coming from, the password for this week is sour grapes. Sour grapes. So things are running pretty much standard on my channel. SteamWorld Dig is still plugging along. I need to record some more of the episodes. That'll be likely tomorrow. RimWorld. Just broke a siege on on that series. Literally. Oh boy. Interesting things are always happening in the world. Had siegers. They started pelting my base with fire foam shells. And for those who never played RimWorld, there's various shells that could be shoved into a mortar and then launched at the enemy. Well, one of them is fire foam, which is a flame suppressant. It's meant to put out fires, but they were covering my base in fire foam. And actually ended up hitting someone and hurting them with a fire foam shell. Oh, RimWorld. And then Divinity, well, you just heard, is still ongoing, hopefully, where we just recorded into the 80s. So we have a fair lengthy playlist for that. Because damn. Maybe we should do a game next time that, we could finish in the same year.
That would be a good idea. We've been recording Divinity for over a year, right?
Well,
yeah.
We're also including delays and then, stoppages.
But still, I think that counts.
Yeah, 80 episodes, that's quite a bit. To be fair, 52 weeks times 2, 104 would be a full year without stoppages.
We may get there.
Yeah, we may. And, the Sunday Sampler, once again, just depends on what I get. I am working on channel assets for branching the Sunday Sampler out from just the quick play stuff, or quick look stuff. But that really depends on me sitting down and getting it working, and actually liking how it looks, because I'm not exactly an artist. I'm more just throwing shit together and, maybe get it look decent. Maybe. But you can find all that over at Gaming with Caffeine Rage, or you can find me on the Twitter. I believe I was complaining about, not sure, feeling tired or just allergies popping up on my last tweet or two. Because allergy season, yay. The antihistamines are in my system, and I'm feeling alright still. I'm mostly growing on my allergies, unlike some people.
Yeah, I'm pretty screwed in that respect.
We'll just hold you down, shoot you up with all the antihistamines.
That might help a little.
For the short time before you OD. I could breathe!
It would be glorious, though.
But yeah, there's all that. Gaming with CR for the Twitter. And, if you wish to contact us, You do so also on Twitter, BGL Podcast, or just email us bglpodcast@gmail.com with your letters, voicemails, gaming-related topics, or yell at us for spending over an hour on random YouTube shit. Right?
Absolutely.
But if you liked all that and wish to pay us for it as a positive reinforcement, do so patreon.com/BGL Podcast, which did pay for our Podbean account, bglpodcast.podbean.com, which hosts the RSS feed as well as our show notes, or you can just find us on iTunes, Google Play, or your podcatcher of choice. Our intro and outro music is On the Ground, and, well, we didn't do the discovery queue, so we could skip that. But both of those, when we use them, is by Kevin McLeod, and you can find his work at incompetech.com. And
as always, as his lovely music starts to roll across my voice, which thankfully held out this episode. Bye now.
Voice, you have a very impressive throat.
Oh yeah, I do. Too bad my gag reflex sucks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.